Reiki Recovery, Gaining the Emperor's Inheritance at the Start Part 1. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the mountains. Nanjing No. 7 Middle School. Senior Year, Class 2. Suran gazed out the window, lost in thought. The eerie red clouds made him uneasy, yet his classmates seemed completely accustomed to them. Whoosh! A piece of chalk shot through the air from the podium, cutting through the silence with a sharp whistle. It narrowly missed Suran's cheek and struck the wall behind him. The once noisy classroom fell into silence. The chalk embedded itself in the wall, leaving behind fine cracks. Suran swallowed hard, hearing murmurs spread through the room. As expected of old Yao. His Xian-level strength is insane. He can turn a piece of chalk into a lethal weapon. If that thing hit my head, damn. Relax, he's just trying to scare us. Do you think he'd actually do anything? The man at the podium, middle-aged, slightly overweight, cast a brief glance at Suran before rapping his knuckles against the blackboard. Before the graduation assessment, you must first take the spiritual power test. Your future at the spiritual university depends on it. He scanned the room, voice growing sharper. This is the turning point in your lives. Even if some of you don't care, you'd better listen carefully. A pointed remark. Several sneering glances turned toward Suran. Feeling the weight of their stares, he quickly refocused on the blackboard, pretending to pay attention. It wasn't his fault he was distracted. Damn it, I really don't understand. He understood every word they said, but strung together, they made no sense. It had been 7 days since he arrived in this world. His face was the same. His name was the same. The environment didn't seem different. But buried in his mind was a strange set of memories. 50 years ago, 2012. Reports of undead creatures surfaced across the world. Some humans, inexplicably, awakened supernatural abilities. Then, a dark red meteor crashed into the Pacific Ocean. Life in the deep sea began mutating. The International Federation launched an investigation, classifying the matter as top secret. But as time passed, mutations increased. Even humans began to change. A devastating plague swept the world, leaving behind more and more mutants, people with abilities beyond imagination. Then came the final turning point. An army of undead creatures wiped an entire nation off the map. There was no hiding it anymore. And so, the era of spiritual awakening began. Back in the classroom. If you can't pass the spiritual exam, choosing arts or sciences isn't a bad alternative, Yao Jun said, looking directly at Suran. After all, awakening a power doesn't make you a true supernatural being. He ran a hand over his balding head and sighed. Soft chuckles rippled through the class. This was the top spiritual science class in the entire grade. Every student here had 1 foot already in the gates of spiritual university. Except for Suran. 3 years ago, his awakening of Class A, high-sequence superpower, Black Flame caused a nationwide stir. Yet after all this time, he had failed to advance beyond Yellow Rank Level 1. Years later, the so-called genius turned out to be useless. Only old Zhao still has faith in him. Someone whispered after class. I heard the school wanted to transfer him to a regular class, but old Zhao refused. A tall student smirked. Maybe Suran's actually old Yao's illegitimate son. What do you think? Laughter erupted in the back rows. Suran clenched his fists, anger flaring, only to be interrupted. A slender figure stood up. Zhao Wenxiang, watch your mouth! Zhao Wenxiang turned, grinning. Oh? Yin Fang, since when did you become his little protector? We've been classmates for 3 years, and I had no idea you two were so close. You! Yin Fang's face flushed red with anger. Suran sighed and gently pulled her back. Forget it, class rep. Suran! Yin Fang was furious. She turned to him, eyes blazing. Can you grow a backbone? The more you stay silent, the more they'll push you around. Suran shrugged, flashing a calm smile. There are always dogs that love barking. No point barking back. Yin Fang blinked. Then, she burst into laughter. Hey, Brother Chang, did you hear that? He just called you a dog. Shut the hell up. I have ears. Zhao Wenxiang's face darkened as he stepped forward. Say that again, I dare you. Spiritual energy began gathering in his fists. A yellow rank level 4 practitioner. 3 levels higher than Su Ran. Su Ran slowly stood up. Was he scared? Hell no. What's wrong? You like getting called that? Fine, just call me Daddy, and I'll say it again. Silence. The entire class froze. Since when did Su Ran get this bold? Zhao Wenxiang's face twisted with rage. His fists hardened, turning into stone. He lunged. Su Ran snapped his fingers. Black flames flickered at his fingertips. Whoosh! Only to be extinguished by the sheer force of the incoming punch. A solid hit landed on Su Ran's face. Pain exploded in his skull. His vision blurred. He staggered. And at that moment, ding! The correct activation method has been detected. The inheritance tower is now initializing. Activation complete. Do you wish to enter? A cold mechanical voice echoed in his mind. Su Ran froze. A system? Finally, it appeared. So, the correct way to activate it was getting beaten up. Stop fighting! If you hit me again, I'll go call the teacher. Squad leader Yin Fang hurriedly tried to dissuade him. Although he is only at the yellow level, if a fight really breaks out, someone might die. Zhao Wenxiang was about to throw a punch, but after hearing this he could only withdraw his hand angrily. All right. If you dare not run after school, I will kill you! The dog started barking again. F***CKU. The anger that Zhao Wenxiang had just suppressed rose again. But at this time the class bell had already rung. He glared at Su Ran fiercely and turned around to return to his seat. The dog tucked its tail between its legs and ran away. Zhao Wenxiang really couldn't stand it anymore. But at this time the teacher had already walked into the classroom, and he could only grit his teeth and give up. Su Ran had a smirk on his face. He stretched out a finger towards Zhao Wenxiang and bent it hard. No words. But Zhao Wenxiang's face turned pale, as if he heard a provocative voice. Come here. Zhao Wenxiang, why aren't you going back to your seat? The class has already started. The teacher walked up to the podium and scolded him. Zhao Wenxiang's face flushed red and he glanced at Su Ran sinisterly. The meaning of this? Waiting after school? Su Ran was unhappy. I have a system now, come here if you have the guts. Who am I afraid of now? If you don't come over, would that punch I just took be in vain? System, 10 consecutive draws or a novice gift pack, give it to me quickly. Su Ran shouted silently in his heart. Didn't Zhao Wenxiang want to do something to himself after school? When I become stronger, I will slap you bastards in the face. Ding! No reward? Do you want to enter the inheritance tower? No rewards? Su Ran's face looked a little strange. Sign in and punch the clock in? Do I need to complete the novice mission or something? Ding! No! Do you want to enter the inheritance tower? I just said something harsh, and you tell me there is no reward? No rewards? Won't I be beaten to death after school? Getting slapped in the face? Su Ran was silent. He remembered that there was a hole in the school wall. When he ran out from there, he shouldn't be blocked by anyone, right? Enter. Forget it, let's first take a look at what this inheritance tower is. As soon as the words fell, a blinding white light suddenly appeared before his eyes. When he could see his surroundings clearly again, Su Ran seemed to be trapped in a void. It was a pitch-black environment. The blurry and dazzling purple-red light in the sky kept changing, and the ground beneath was like an abyss that was out of reach. Only right in front of it, there stood a majestic and ancient 7-story tower, with countless iron chains and shackles extending in all directions, hooking into the surrounding abyss. 7th floor? But it seems that we can only enter the 1st floor now. Boom! The tower trembled, and then the heavy door slowly opened. Have I traveled through time again? Su Ran was a little confused, but just after he entered the tower, I was immediately shocked by the scene before me. It doesn't look big from the outside, but it's a different world inside. It's the entrance to a magnificent hall. Glazed golden tiles, double eaves and double ridges. 12 golden pillars with carved beams and painted buildings stand there. In the center stands a vermilion lacquered and gilded plaque. There are 3 powerful and bold characters written on it. Tai Chi Hall. The hall of tens of thousands of square meters looked empty. Just when Su Ran was wondering, his eyes suddenly looked at the figure on the throne. "Little baby, are you the inheritor?" The majestic voice echoed in the hall. When Su Ran saw the man clearly, his pupils shrank suddenly. He just felt like his brain exploded. The man had a curly beard and a crown, and looked dignified, with 2 exaggerated sideburns. The appearance of dragon and phoenix, the appearance of heaven and sun. Su Ran had seen his portrait in history books, and his heart couldn't help but beat wildly. Emperor Taizong of Tang. Li Shimin. Yes. Su Ran answered calmly. After all, he was just a middle school student. It was good enough that he could remain rational at this time. The great Khan of heaven. Emperor Wenwu. He actually appeared before my eyes alive. If it were someone else, they would have been scared silly. You have a good heart. Do you know what you are doing here? Have no idea. Su Ran was shocked. The first level is Tian Khan, the second level, the third level. What about the 7th floor? The class is still in session. The teacher on the stage found Su Ran lying on the table and thought he was dozing off, but just shook his head and ignored him. After all, not everyone cares about him as much as his class teacher Yao Jun. A rotten wood cannot be carved. After a while, Su Ran finally figured out what this inheritance tower was all about. In short, it's just 4 words. Imperial inheritance. Thinking of this, Su Ran took a breath. There are dozens of kinds of superpowers appearing in the world today. The Xia kingdom arranged them into 10 groups according to the heavenly stems, and each group was divided into 12 according to the earthly branches. The higher the ranking, the stronger the supernatural power. This is why even the top management was alarmed when Su Ran awakened his Class A superpowers. Although it is only Jiahai, which is at the end of Class A, there are only a handful of such high rankings in the country. The top 9 superpowers in Group A, no matter what they are, have the same name. Imperial inheritance. Because all these supernatural powers come from legendary emperors in Western epics, such as King Arthur and Ashoka. Even Peter the Great and Caesar. As for the inheritance of the Chinese emperors, not a single one has appeared so far. Some people say that this homeland of China has lost the protection of its ancestors. Now Su Ran can slap him in the face with justification. What should I do? Su Ran can't wait any longer. Ha, just come to me. If you come to me, you can obtain all my inheritance. So simple? Su Ran's mouth opened wide. He took a step forward without thinking, but after he took one step, suddenly an extremely heavy pressure came towards him. It's like carrying a huge rock and unable to move. Su Ran staggered, gritted his teeth to steady himself, and took a few steps forward. Plop! Then he knelt on one knee on the ground, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't move forward. Su Ran's smile froze. He just cracked open. There are still hundreds of steps to go. The further you go, the greater the pressure will be. Who can make it through? After 7 steps, it was much better than I expected. The majestic figure nodded with satisfaction, then waved his yellow robe and said, Then I'll give you these as a gift. Remember, only when you are qualified to stand by my side can you reach a higher level. Several beams of light shot into Su Ran's mind. He only felt that the sound in the hall was getting farther and farther away and more ethereal. Hey! Su Ran, you're still sleeping after school! Someone shook him awake. At this time, all the students in the class were preparing to pack their bags and go home. No homework today, great! There will be a spiritual power test tomorrow, and there is no homework assigned. You should conserve your energy. I'm going back first. Wang Lihong has new gossip today. I haven't eaten it yet. Don't read it, I'll summarize it for you. I dare not be stubborn anymore, please stop hammering me. Didn't you say yesterday that you were living in fear and terror under the threat of blackmail? Ding! Congratulations on raising your spiritual power to yellow rank 10. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining hair removal and marrow cleansing X1. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining a combat puppet, Xian level, X1. 3 system prompt sounds rang out. Su-Ran was already standing there in a daze. Su-Ran was in a state of confusion at this moment. He guessed that the 3 rewards given by Li Shimin must be extraordinary, but he didn't expect them to be so outrageous. There are 8 levels of spiritual power realm. To sum it up in 8 words: emperors, generals, heaven and earth. Each realm is divided into 10 levels of strength. Of course, this is the Chinese name. In foreign countries, it seems to be ABCD or something like that. Anyway, it sounds very lame. Generally speaking, as long as students can reach the 3rd level of yellow rank in 3 years of high school, they can basically enter the spiritual science university smoothly. But now, Su-Ran actually broke through to the 10th level of the yellow rank. This is a level that most people may not be able to reach even after 10 years of hard practice. Bang! Just when Su-Ran was about to think about the next 2 rewards, the classroom door was suddenly kicked open, and Zhao Wenxiang walked in with 2 lackeys with aggressive faces. I was wondering why I couldn't find you at the school gate. You were hiding in the classroom for a long time and didn't dare to go out. He spat fiercely on the ground. There were a few other students in the class, but at this time they were too scared to speak. They just picked up their school bags and walked out. It is conceivable. By the time I come to school tomorrow, Su-Ran will probably have been admitted to the hospital. Hey! You 3 are walking around without a leash? Su-Ran smiled playfully. Zhao Wenxiang was stunned at first, but when he realized what was happening, he was filled with shame and anger. F***CK. Kill him for me. I'll take the blame if anything goes wrong. Okay, Brother Chang. The 2 lackeys walked over with a grim smile, stretching their muscles. Zhao Wenxiang's father is a school director. If something really happens, it can be resolved with just a few words. So it is possible that they really beat Su-Ran to death. But Su-Ran was not afraid at all. Instead, he went up to him with a sneer on his face. The other 2 laughed when they saw this. It turned out that this kid didn't run away, but actually ran over here to die. Snap! Snap! Just as they were about to laugh, 2 extremely heavy slaps hit them in the face. What are you grinning at? Look at your S********* Y faces, Su-Ran said with a look of disgust. The 2 men's heads were buzzing from the slapping. They spun around twice on the spot and were unable to react at all. Not to mention the 2 of them, even Zhao Wenxiang found it a little unbelievable. Although these 2 men are only level 2, they should be more than enough to deal with Su-Ran. How come he was slapped back twice? Bang! Another slap. The force is powerful and heavy. But this time it fell on Zhao Wenxiang's face. What are you standing here in a daze for? This slap is my return to you, Su-Ran said with a pout. This slap. Zhao Wenxiang was hit so hard that he flew backwards and hit several tables with a bang. He didn't get up for a long time. He spat a mouthful of blood foam to the side, and several of his back teeth were broken. His face was full of shock and anger. How so? Isn't Su-Ran only at level 1? I am 3 levels higher than him. How come you can't even withstand a slap? Are you confused? Are you slapped in the face? No way, no way, how can I not beat him? Su-Ran also said in a mean way what Zhao Wenxiang was thinking. Zhao Wenxiang was so ashamed and angry that he wanted to die. This is so murderous and heartbreaking. He broke through the defense directly. I'm going to kill you! However, just as he was about to get up in anger, another powerful slap came at him and knocked him to the ground again. Like a dead dog. With Su-Ran's current level 10 spiritual power, beating Zhao Wenxiang is like a piece of cake. You still can't figure out the situation? I'm going to slap you twice today to teach you a lesson. If you cause trouble again in the future. Su Ran said and raised his hand again. Zhao Wenxiang was so scared that he instinctively shrank his neck. He was filled with doubt and uncertainty. Quick! Too fast. He didn't even see clearly how Su Ran made the move just now, he just felt his eyes blurred and got slapped. Such a terrifying speed. Is this the first level of yellow rank? What is going on? After being slapped twice, Su Ran felt much better, but just as he was about to leave, suddenly, a foul smell suddenly wafted over. The smell was like the smell of a rat that had died in a gutter and had been left to rot in the sun. It's disgusting. Is anyone stewing shit in school? Su Ran couldn't help but curse. He covered his mouth and nose and frowned. Whoosh! A strange voice suddenly sounded outside the window. The feeling of danger surged into Su Ran's brain like crazy, and he rolled to the side without thinking. At the same time, a huge black figure rushed towards him with a foul smell. Su Ran barely avoided it. But Zhao Wenxiang, who was lying on the ground, was not so lucky. Ah! Heart-wrenching screams echoed throughout the empty teaching building. The other two men's legs were so weak with fear that muddy yellow liquid dripped from their crotches. Su Ran's face also changed and his pupils shrank suddenly. It was a tall humanoid creature nearly 2 meters tall. It was not actually accurate to call it a humanoid because its long and narrow upper limbs were like 2 bamboo poles and its hands were covered with sharp claws. The pitch-black skin that was still wriggling and the scarlet mouth that was constantly bleeding both emitted a fishy stench. Zhao Wenxiang's struggling movements became weaker and weaker, and the sound gradually disappeared. There was a bloody hole in his stomach. The monster was grabbing the white intestines with its sharp claws and putting the bloody organs into its mouth. Bite. Chew. Su Ran felt his stomach churning and almost vomited. Corpse! Corpse! The two men were so frightened that they were trembling all over and their faces turned pale. This is a corpse. There are pictures in the textbook, but why does this look different from the one in the book? Xian-level undead creature. How did this creature appear in school? You! Su Ran was about to speak, but the two men ran away, shouting in fear as they ran. Damn! 2 useless things, and I still expect them to help me. It's not that Su Ran didn't want to run, but he clearly remembered that the textbook said that Sheba liked to eat raw internal organs, was agile, and was good at hiding and hunting. Run? Those 2 idiots thought they could get away? Su Ran became ruthless, and while the corpse was still eating, the spiritual power in his body began to circulate wildly. A moment later, a fierce black flame was suddenly released. The firelight was cold, but it exudes a scorching temperature. In just a moment, the classroom windows began to melt. Then, boom! The huge classroom was instantly engulfed by black flames. Countless black smoke even rushed out of the window. The poor crooked neck was burned to ashes in an instant. Is this my black flame? Thinking back to the tiny flame I made before, it was so hard to even light a cigarette. Su Ran doubted whether this was something he could have done. The flames gradually faded away. Su Ran was fine, but his clothes were burned to tatters. It seems I have to learn to control myself in the future. Damn it! He muttered to himself, and suddenly his eyes widened. At this time, the classroom had turned into a charred mess. The desks and benches were all burned to ashes. The walls were full of cracks, and there were still sparks in the cracks that had not been extinguished. It's over, I have to pay. But that's not all. Suddenly, I saw a slight movement starting from the charred ashes. Su Ran's face turned completely bitter. No way? This guy didn't die? Bro, I just set off a small flame, you won't be angry, right? Can't you just let me go? Night falls. Qingyuan Road is an alley 1 block away from number 7 middle school. Captain? We've wiped them out, but one seems to have escaped. A man in a black combat uniform took off his mask, revealing a stern face. As they were talking, several more people dressed similarly filed out of the alley. Damn it! This is the 11th death this month. How many zombies escaped from that transport truck? There's nothing in these corpses, which means there are other corpses active in the city. If we don't clear them out quickly, I'm afraid the whole city will be under blue alert. Those people are so vicious. They hid things inside the corpse. It's a disgusting idea. It's a pity they could come up with such a method. Several people were talking at once. A graceful woman was leaning against the wall at the entrance of the alley, but her mask covered the lower half of her face, revealing only her cold eyes. Check the surroundings. The voice is also cold, without any unnecessary nonsense. Captain, everything has been checked. The man smiled bitterly. Check again. The woman's expression remained unchanged. Suddenly, a faint black flame flashed in the distance. Everyone's face changed and they looked over suddenly. Black flame. A high sequence ability ranked in Group A. Everyone recognized this ability immediately. Is there a black flame awakener in South City? The woman's eyes were filled with shock that was difficult to conceal. I don't know. I just transferred here too. It seems like there is, but I remember he was a first-level yellow rank student. Someone said hesitantly. Yellow level 1? It can be seen from across a block. Is this the first level of the yellow rank? Go and take a look. Yes. Suran looked at the burnt classroom, the corners of his mouth twitching constantly. This won't get him fired, right? What made him even more speechless was still behind. Then an angry roar was heard, and white smoke came out of the corpse. Although its skin was burnt, it was obviously not dead yet. At this moment, he was roaring and rushing towards Suran. Is this a corpse? This is a fucking cockroach! Suran cursed inwardly, and quickly dodged to the side. But the corpse was extremely fast, and the bloody wind whistled past, instantly cutting his arm open, and blood immediately flowed out. Hiss! Suran gasped in pain. Such a big fire can't kill me, what should I do now? I heard that Sheba doesn't seem to eat corpses. Is it too late to lie on the ground and pretend to be dead? As soon as the thought came to his mind, the huge body pounced on him again, and Suran could only try his best to dodge to the side. This time, the sharp claws almost grazed his eyes. If it were a little more off. Even if his head doesn't explode, his eyes will probably be blind. But even so, the strong fishy wind still made his eyes hurt, and tears blurred his vision, and he couldn't open his eyes for a while. Finished. Isn't it going to be like this? Suddenly, Suran thought of the combat puppet rewarded by the system. Yes, isn't that puppet a Xian level 1? At this time, he could only try his best to save the situation. My heart was moved. I just felt a vague figure beside me. Kill him! Erguzi! Suran ordered immediately. Then he squatted aside and rubbed his eyes. Oh shit! It really hurts. Suran could hear the sounds of fighting and roaring, but he had no idea what was going on. When he felt he could barely open his eyes, the fighting had already stopped. Wang Defa? Is this the end? Suran looked over quickly. It would have been fine if I hadn't looked at it, but once I did, I was stunned. The corpse that was so ferocious just now was now lying on the ground, its 2 long arms were torn off and its head was smashed to pieces. Lie on the ground. It's impossible to die anymore. Is this a victory? I wasn't even burned to death by the black flame, but this puppet was dealt with in just 2 or 3 moves. So I'm a waste? Suran's eyes widened, his gaze falling on the tall figure in a cloak next to him. He walked over slowly and looked around. F***CK. So handsome, worthy of being a Xian-level puppet. He looks just like a real person. And it's made of simulated silicone. Wow. The feel, it's a pity that he's a man. What a pity! Suran took it back with great regret. It seems that the fighting power of this puppet is stronger than he imagined. More than just amazing? With such a puppet, can't he just walk around arrogantly if he is below the Xian level? His eyes fell on the corpse of Sheba. I heard that all mutated creatures have spirit cores in their bodies, and Xian level spirit cores are very valuable. Su Ran made up his mind and squatted over. After a while, Su Ran suppressed his nausea and vomited as he groped inside the smelly corpse. Then he ran to the side and vomited violently. Vomit! Su Ran glanced at the beads in his hand, which were still stained with something fishy, and then spit them out. So disgusting. This spirit core looks weird, so forget it. He tore off a piece of cloth from his clothes, wiped the beads in his hands, and quickly ran out of the school. Run quickly. He doesn't want to get into any trouble. Otherwise, if I cause such a big mess, I won't be able to bear the responsibility if I am held accountable. As for Zhao Wenqian, Su Ran suddenly stopped, turned back and observed silence for 3 seconds. Brother, I will burn paper for you. Su Ran just left not long ago. The security guard who stayed behind at the school finally arrived, and almost a moment later, 4 or 5 other figures in combat uniforms also rushed over. When everyone saw the scene in front of them, their faces changed. The old security guard's face turned even paler. The woman looked around and her eyes turned a little colder. The scene is destroyed like this. Is this the first level of yellow rank? Captain, this doesn't seem to be a corpse demon, it's a different species of black demon. One of them covered his mouth and nose and walked forward to check, then immediately spoke. Black demon. Even if it were just one of them, they might not be able to kill it. The woman frowned. Check if there's anything inside. The black demon had been ripped open, and it was obvious that someone had been searching inside. After a while, the man dug out a red crystal core-like object from a pile of flesh and blood. The spirit core is still there, but it doesn't contain what we want. Hearing this, everyone present felt a little depressed. Since there are people who specialize in dissecting corpses and taking out things, how could they return empty-handed? The spirit core is still there, so there is only one possibility. The stuff has been taken. Is there any surveillance video? The power was out this afternoon. What a coincidence. The old man had a smirk on his face. The woman's expression became even colder, and she looked at the team members. I remember you said that there is a student in the school whose ability is Black Flame, right? Yes, but... The team member hesitated to speak. You are talking about Su Ran. I've heard of that guy, but he is not cut out for studying spiritual science. He is only at the first level of the yellow rank now. It's impossible that he did this. The old man shook his head desperately. Yes, Captain. And this is a black demon of alien species. How can a middle school student kill it? Then how do you explain this? The woman pointed at the charred wall. Everyone was silent for a while. Really? Let alone China, look at the whole world. There are only a handful of people who can possess Black Flame. What a coincidence, 2 appeared in one city. I don't care if it's possible or not, the woman said in a cold tone. Find him and interrogate him. Don't you know how dangerous the things in his hands are? Make sure to get the things back before those people find him. This is also for his life. Su Ran's home is just a few blocks away from the school. My hometown is in the countryside. This is a rented house. An old tube-shaped building with simple 2 bedrooms and a living room. Got detention again? As soon as I entered the door, the middle-aged man on the sofa asked. He held the TV remote in his hand and didn't even raise his head. Su Ran responded. The man has a buzz cut and a square face, and he always has a stinky face. The clothes he wears are old styles from a few years ago, almost exactly the same as in his previous life. Su Hai's eyes fell on his tattered clothes, and his face suddenly became angry. Who did you fight with again? I support you to go to school, not to let you fool around. Can't you learn from your sister and give me some peace of mind? Su Ran held back all the words in his heart. No. You know nothing. It's already so late and the food is cold. If you come back late, you'll have to drink the dishwater. Su Ran was already angry, so he simply stopped talking. He went straight into his room and closed the door. Real. I don't know since when. The 2 of them can no longer communicate properly. Suhai didn't say anything, because he noticed the beads in Su Ran's hand out of the corner of his eye. At this moment, as if he thought of something, his brows suddenly frowned. A moment later. You little brat! Your abilities have improved, and the troubles you make are getting bigger and bigger. He muttered a curse and turned his attention to the TV news. You have to let me clean up your mess again. Although he was cursing. But the corners of his mouth curled up involuntarily. Su Ran locked himself in the room. There was a basin on the table. When he opened it, the aroma of food immediately wafted out. He felt warm in his heart, and suddenly felt a little regretful. I should have said it nicely just now. However, when he thought about the scene where his father started scolding him before he had even said a few words, he could only sigh and give up. Never mind. Let's talk about it later. Su Ran finished the food in a few bites, and quickly sat cross-legged on the bed. He wants to practice. After all, of the 3 rewards given by the system, the only one missing is the hair removal and marrow cleansing, which I haven't figured out. The cultivation of supernatural powers is not as mysterious as described in novels. In short, it's just 2 words. Hold your breath. Then try to use mental power to stimulate the spiritual energy in the body, and let the spiritual energy start circulating in the body instead of breathing. The longer you persist, the better the results of your practice will be. The spiritual power factors contained in the air quietly enter the body from outside the body, and then circulate in the body. This process consumes a lot of mental energy. In the past, Su Ran couldn't even last 5 minutes, and basically couldn't complete a single cycle. This is also the reason why his strength has stagnated. But this time it's different. Su Ran was immersed in it, and found that there was no obstruction in the circulation of spiritual power driven by mental power, and the whole process was extremely smooth. Spiritual energy flows throughout the body. His physical condition is also slowly improving. I don't know how much time passed. Bang! Bang! You're still sleeping in. What time is it? People are waiting for you at the door. Su Hai knocked on the door. Su Ran suddenly woke up. It was already bright outside the window. It was already 8 o'clock in the morning. He practiced all night? An unprecedented ecstasy surged in my heart. Ordinary people can only practice for an hour at most, and then it takes a long time to recover their mental strength, but I actually practiced for a whole night. And I just feel a little tired. I guess I'll be full of energy after taking a nap. Although it was only one night, the spiritual power did not increase much. But for Su Ran, who had been stagnant for 3 years, this was like a blessing in disguise. He opened the door excitedly and hugged Su Hai. Dad? Okay, don't bother with this useless stuff. It's only $10 at most. Take it or leave it. Su Hai pulled him away with great disgust. Before he could react, a backpack and a bill were stuffed into his hand, and then he was pushed out of the room. Bang! The door is closed. Su Ran was left alone outside the door, confused. Good morning! A clear and pleasant voice sounded beside me. Su Ran turned around and saw a pure and lovely girl. She has short hair and a white shirt tucked into a gray knee-length pleated skirt. A pair of sandals were draped over the slender, straight calves. Show off your pink toes. Gu Kier. Su Ran's childhood sweetheart, they are from the same hometown, and now go to the same school. But he is the top student and monitor of the class. She is also the school belle. Every morning Gu Kier would wait for him here to go to school together, and Su Ran had gotten used to it. Here. Milk and eggs. Gu Kier handed over a breakfast, and Su Ran took it naturally. After taking 2 sips, he found that the taste was different from usual. He looked suspiciously at the 2 lumps below her collar. Pa! What are you thinking? Gu Kier's face flushed red, and she clenched her teeth. This is fresh milk, specially sent from the ranch. I know it's fresh milk, but I don't know if it's from the farm. Su Ran had a wicked smile on his face. You want to be beaten? It hurts. It hurts. Stop pinching me. Arrived at school, they both returned to their respective classes. However, The entrance of Class 2 was quite lively. The entrance was crowded with people, but no one could get in. What the hell? Was there a fire in the class last night? All my study materials are in there. It's a collector's edition. Oh my God! Are study materials divided into these? Really? Bro, come over and borrow one to talk. Borrow a hammer, it's all burnt. Su-ran whistled. He looks at his nose with his eyes and cares about his nose with his nose, as if it has nothing to do with him. He raised his eyebrows, looking surprised. Huh! How did a fire break out? Who is so careless? Pretend to be very similar. No matter how well you pretend, you can't escape being called away by the discipline office. After the spiritual power test is finished, go to the principal's office. Okay. Su-ran was not panicked at all. He had already thought of an excuse, so he would be able to handle it well when the time came. The spiritual power test is simple. Everyone will be assigned a tester and release spiritual power onto the tester. The terminal will display the results. Class 2's classroom is no longer usable, so they can only squeeze in with Class 1 for the time being. Su-ran, sit here! Gukur patted her sides excitedly, leaving several envious glances from those around her. Su-ran, it doesn't matter if you really can't pass the exam. You're so pretty, I heard those rich ladies in the West District like you. If it really doesn't work, I'll just eat this gigolo with tears in my eyes. The speaker was a sturdy young man, who had awakened the Wu-Si, beast transformation, supernatural power. The first 5 groups, and in high sequence. The strength is at yellow rank level 5, very strong. Hearing this, there was laughter all around, and everyone in the class knew Su-ran's name. It's a joke. So who, it's useless for you to envy me. After all, if I look so ugly, I would just kill myself. You're the only one who can laugh. Su-ran retorted. Zhou-hu's face changed and he stood up suddenly. At this time, Lao Yao walked in, accompanied by a group of class teachers. Okay, everyone, be quiet. The spiritual power test will begin soon. Zhou-hu, what do you want to do? The head teacher of Class 1 was a middle-aged woman wearing glasses named Sun Zhouning, nicknamed Nun Miju. Nun Miju? So you don't have any other names, right? Nothing else to say. Just by hearing the title, you can tell that this person is definitely not someone who is easy to talk to. So even Zhou-hu, seeing her cold and stern look, could only glare at Su-ran in secret hatred and return to his seat. The spiritual power test is about to begin. Why is it a spiritual power test instead of a realm test? After all, they are just a bunch of middle school students, so what? Do you expect them to reach the Xian level? This spiritual power test, in addition to being a baseline test for the school, is also related to the upcoming final examination, so no one dared to be careless. Because there are limited testers, we can only start testing in batches. After the first batch of tests are completed, a series of names and numbers soon appeared on the terminal screen. The first one on the list was a student named Naiduanku. Test score, 467. A full 100 points higher than the second place. Good! A smile appeared on Yao Jun's face. Duanku was a student in Class 2. There was also a hint of pride on the boy's face. There were countless envious glances from all around. The score of 467 converted into levels was almost equivalent to level 4 strength. According to previous years, this kind of result would be no problem at all. Of course. The prerequisite is that the performance in the subsequent graduation examination cannot be poor. As more and more batches of people were tested, the number never exceeded this number. Until Zhou-hu's name was called. After taking the spiritual power tester, he first glanced at Su-ran with a sneer, which meant nothing more than, "Watch out, you piece of trash, I'll show you what strength is." Then, as he gathered his spiritual energy, the lights on the tester began to flash rapidly. After a constipated look, the number of 583 finally ranked first on the list. There were cries of surprise all around. Level 5. And it looks like it won't be long before I can reach level 6. As expected of Zouhu, he is really strong. You're kidding. Are you thinking I'm kidding you about the 5th order Wu-Yi beast transformation talent? How many people can reach this level in middle school? The class was amazed. But soon the commotion was suppressed. Because the next batch of names called included Gukir. Come on, Kur! What do you think Gukur will achieve? Kur is the best and will always be my goddess. Not to mention Class 1, even Class 2 was excited. Most of these screaming and howling people were boys. Hearing words like, I love you, and goddess, Sun Zhongying's face darkened. It was obvious that these students were about to graduate and were letting themselves go. But when her eyes fell on Gu Kir, even though she was usually stern, her facial lines softened. Gu Kir always had a smile on her face. After she took the tester, her hands immediately began to emit a bright white light, and there was no sign of effort on her face. But the opposite is true. A terrifying number was displayed on the terminal. 762. F***CK. Level 7. Is this the talent of the 3rd order Bingzi? He really deserves to be the number 1 genius in our number 7 middle school. I'm so envious. With Kur's qualifications, even if she enters the spiritual university, she will probably be the one who is given special care. After Gu Kir's test, the red light on the tester kept flashing, which was a clear sign that the threshold had been reached. After all, most ordinary testers can only test the upper limit of spiritual power around level 5. In order to take care of someone like Gu Kur, the schools specially replaced the tester with a higher-end tester of better quality, but it still almost got overloaded. Su Ran was sitting on the side, watching Gu Kur sticking out her tongue at him casually, and couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Look at what happened just now. I'm afraid this person hasn't tried his best yet. It takes about a year for a normal person to increase his spiritual power by 1 level. The further you go, the longer it takes. And it only took this girl 3 years to reach the 7th level of the yellow rank. This is definitely a rare genius. Of course. It is said that there are some freaks who break through to the Xian level in middle school. That kind of person cannot be called a genius. That kind of thing is a fucking monster, and should be captured for dissection and researched to contribute to the progress of mankind. This girl is really amazing. Yao Jun echoed with a forced smile, and it was obvious that he was not very happy. No matter how great you are still in the same class. On the other hand, Sun Zhongying was different. Her eyes were almost narrowed with joy, but she still looked nonchalant. It's just okay, but it's far inferior to your class. Doesn't Class 2 have a first sequence Jia High student named Black Flame? In terms of talent, my student is far inferior to him. Yao Jun was so angry that he gritted his teeth. Then he looked back at his student Su Ran, who was flirting with the genius in the class. You better do your best later. Don't worry, it's a must. A worthless thing. Yao Jun's face turned black and he kept squeezing the chalk in his hand, but in the end he didn't throw it away because he was in front of another class. At this time, Su Ran's name happened to be called on the list. All eyes focused on him. Especially when they saw that this guy was still teasing their class beauty, they were all extremely jealous. Teacher, Su Ran doesn't need to take the test, right? Aren't the test scores of this great man always stable? They are always round numbers. Zhou, who secretly hated him, and raised his voice to sneer. 100? Ha! At least it's a small increase in 3 years. Forgive my insincere smile. There was even more laughter all around. Seeing Yao Jun's face darken, Sun Zhongying felt relieved, but she still had to put on a show of pretending. Okay, no laughing during the test. Don't listen to them. You can do it. Gu Kur cheered Su Ran on the side. Su Ran just smiled slightly. Nor did he speak. You can't talk when you're showing off, otherwise your arrogance will easily show. He took the tester, and immediately began to gather spiritual power in his hands. The light emitted by the spiritual power even spread to his forearms. The tester in his hand was flashing red light wildly. The alarms began to sound continuously. But Su Ran didn't care at all and continued to release his spiritual power. At last. Laugh. A burst of black smoke came out of the tester, and it was scrapped. On the terminal display, a number was jumping wildly and the ranking was constantly rising. Finally, it stopped steadily in the first place. This was followed by a jaw-dropping number. 998. The commotion in the class quieted down. There was complete silence. The mocking words were on the tip of Zhou tongue, but he couldn't utter them. He could only make cuckooing sounds like a duck with its neck stuck. Everyone, including the two class teachers, widened their eyes. They looked at the ranking display on the terminal. Is this Su Ran? Are you sure it's not cheating? Just scrap the spiritual power tester? Can you believe this? I don't accept it. Zhou stood up suddenly, his face flushed. This kid must have cheated in some way. One stone can cause 1,000 ripples. The others also came to their senses. That's right. Everyone in number 7 middle school knows that Su Ran is a loser. I've been at level 1 for 3 years, how come I've suddenly jumped to level 9? Even if you take drugs every day, it's impossible to get so fast. The others also looked indignant. After all, this ranking is crucial, and no one can tolerate a piece of trash ranking ahead of them. Su Ran suddenly became anxious. You are only level 9. Your whole family is level 9. I'm level 10, okay. He was also puzzled. Why was the quality of this broken tester so poor? His spiritual power was clearly at level 10, but it was scrapped when it only showed 998. At this time, Sun Zhongying also reacted. She glanced at the numbers on the terminal, and was so shocked that she couldn't express it in words. Cheating? These are testers specially designed for exams, and no one can tamper with them. If this is true, then a monster-level genius has emerged in Nanqing. After thinking for a moment, she found a reasonable explanation. Maybe the tester malfunctioned just now. So how should I fill in this score? Yao Jun smiled at this time. He first glanced at Su Ran, then quickly said, What do you mean by fill it out? Just fill in as many tests as you can get. How can this be fake? Anyone can see that Lao Yao obviously doesn't want to take the test a second time. Sun Zhongying wanted to say something, but he waved his hand and said, All right, there are still students waiting behind us, let's continue the test. Just force the end of the story. Even if the students in the class were indignant, they had no choice but to continue. Su Ran also received Lao Yao's gaze. It seemed that after the test, he would ask him to go to the office. You're actually at level 9, so impressive! Gu Qir's pretty face was full of surprise, but then she pinched Su Ran hard. Su Ran gasped. Be gentle, it hurts. Tell me. When did you break through? Even I don't know. It made me worry about you all the time, and I was thinking about the graduation examination. Gu Qir said this and her face suddenly turned red. Her fair and tender face is covered with blushes, making people want to pinch it. What happened to the graduation examination? Su Ran smiled evilly. Are you afraid that you can't go to the same school as me? You have to miss me all the time? That's right, after all, I'm so handsome, many girls have a crush on me. Gu Qir's smile disappeared. She pinched Su Ran's thigh with 2 fingers and twisted it hard. Then you are very happy, right? Su Ran screamed and then quickly covered her mouth. But it still attracted a lot of attention. The two of them looked like a flirting couple at this moment. Even Sun Zhongying couldn't stand it anymore and coughed with a cold face. Not to mention the others, the looks they gave Su Ran were almost murderous. Just pretend. Still feeding dog food? Is this something a human can do? Looking back at my desk mates, they are either big and picky or beautiful as a flower. Seeing him looking at her, she was still picking her nose. What's wrong? Are you secretly in love with me? Puff. There is no harm without comparison. Throughout the entire testing process, the classroom was filled with resentment. The test is over. Su Ran was called away by Lao Yao. When there was no one else in the office, he asked with a straight face. Tell me, what's wrong with your spiritual power? Su Ran had known this day would come. How do you talk about this kind of thing? I have a system. The protagonist's halo. Do you believe it? As soon as he said this, a special car from the mental hospital arrived. My dad hit me on the head with a rolling pin a while ago, and then my cultivation became very fast. I don't know why, it was like my Rin and Du meridians were opened, and then it became like this. Su Ran shrugged and tried to smooth things over. Yao Jun was skeptical when he heard this and didn't know whether to believe it or not. But as long as Su Ran didn't really cheat, he would be relieved. Okay. Come to my office after school tomorrow. I have something to tell you. What's so mysterious? Su Ran's eyes suddenly widened, thinking of those rumors. No way? This is too sudden. Does my father know about this? Su Ran's tone became heavier. Your father? What does your father have to do with it? Yao Jun was confused. Su Ran nodded when he saw this. Okay. That's tough enough. He left Lao Yao's office with a worried look on his face, wondering how to deal with the matter. Would his father be upset if he knew about it? What the hell should I do? What a sin! Su Ran was about to go back to the classroom when he was stopped by the dean. He then remembered that he had to go to the principal's office after the test. Why are you here just now? Come in quickly! As soon as Su Ran was brought to the door of the principal's office, he saw the principal nodding and bowing while saying something inside. When he saw Xiao, he immediately started scolding him. Su Ran was slightly stunned. Isn't it the principal who is looking for him? Who is that? His heart was in suspense. Who could be the person who could make the principal of number 7 middle school so respectful to him? With a nervous mood, Su Ran walked into the office. As soon as I entered the door, a graceful figure suddenly walked over, locked the door with a click, and then forcibly pulled Su Ran in. A look of horror appeared on Su Ran's face. Oh shit! No way? I'm only 17, I'm still a minor. Just a child. What does this woman want to do to herself? Su Ran looked over nervously, while holding his pants tightly with his other hand. Who are you? Shut up! The woman was wearing a tight black combat suit that clearly showed off her fiery figure. She pressed Su Ran down on the chair, her eyes outside the mask cold and fierce. I ask a question, you answer it. If you dare to lie. Your name is Su Ran? First Order Black Flame talent? Yes. What's wrong? Where were you at 7 o'clock yesterday afternoon? The woman asked coldly, and suddenly frowned. Why are you so defensive? Su Ran tightened his pants. Big sister, I don't even know who you are, how can I not be nervous? The woman nodded and pulled down her mask. Feng Qingxue, captain of the A-level combat team of the Alien Spirit Department, you are suspected of a smuggling case. Please cooperate. The mask fell off, and Su Ran was stunned. It was an exquisite and flawless face, like a snow lotus blooming on an iceberg, cold but incredibly beautiful. He slowly loosened his pants. In fact, he still has more than a month to go before he becomes an adult. Some things are not unacceptable. Bring it on. Whip and ravage him hard. Don't pity him just because I am a delicate flower. Su Ran, who had just looked nervous and uneasy, now had a look of anticipation in his eyes and a sly look on his face. Even if Feng Qingxue was a fool, he would know what this guy was thinking. Her face suddenly turned cold. Do you want to die? Su Ran still had a smirk on his face. It's okay, even if you want to kill me, I'll accept my fate. It's not that I won't resist, it's that I'm too kind. Feng Qingxue's eyes turned completely cold. A moment later, a scream like a pig being slaughtered was heard from the principal's office. Outside the principal's office, in the corridor, the miserable screams echoed continuously. Many students' attention was instantly attracted. Well, it's quite windy today. The dean at the door smiled sullenly at the principal and turned to look away. It's quite loud. Did you hear anything? No, I didn't hear anything. In the office, Feng Qingxue crossed her arms and leaned on the desk. Can you be quiet now? Uh-huh. At this time, Suran's face was swollen, one of his eyes was sealed, his nose was bleeding, and two of his front teeth were missing. He looked quite miserable, but has become much calmer. Name? Suran. He responded pitifully. Gender? Suran. Feng Qingxue glanced at him coldly, and Suran shuddered all over. Male. At 7 o'clock last night, a student named Zhao Wenxiang died in the school, and a black demon corpse was left behind. Which one did you kill? Suran felt a chill in his heart. Gradually he became serious. She is worthy of being a member of the Supernatural Bureau. Anyone with a discerning eye can tell that Zhao Wenxiang's body was left behind by a corpse demon. She said this on purpose just to put psychological pressure on herself. When you panic, you will be able to confess something really useful. Unfortunately, Suran was not a fool. A look of confusion appeared on his face. An alien black demon? Isn't that a mysterious undead creature? Feng Qingshue's brows gradually frowned. Suran quickly smiled bitterly and explained. Sir, I don't know why you doubt me, but I am only at the yellow rank. Even if I am at the mysterious rank, I may not be able to kill the alien black ba, right? Feng Qingxue said nothing. Her gaze was like a sharp blade piercing Suran's heart, wanting to see his true thoughts. So, it was you who killed Zhao Wenxiang? Yellow rank 9? Killing a 4th level yellow rank student should be possible. What the hell? He was accused of murder for no reason. If it were an ordinary person, he might really panic. But Suran just spread his hands. I do have some grudges with Zhao Wenxiang, but I don't want to kill him, right? If you have enough evidence, just arrest me. I didn't kill anyone. Evidence? There is sufficient evidence. Why are you still talking nonsense? Suran was sure of this. As expected, Feng Qingshue's face turned cold again, but there was nothing she could do. After all, Suran is just a suspect. You can go now. Now it was Suran's turn to be stunned. Gone. Can he go now? So simple? But since she said so, he could only slip away quickly. This woman was too cruel, and he dared not stay any longer. Shortly after Suran left, 2 men in uniform climbed in through the office window. Captain, are you letting this guy go now? Why do I feel like he's not telling the truth? Feng Qingxue shook her head. It doesn't matter whether he's telling the truth or not. Let's spread the word immediately and say that we've found the smuggled goods. Can such obviously fake news fool the people of the Crazy Corpse Gang? Both of them were a little confused. Even if they could understand, the captain did this deliberately as a smokescreen for the Crazy Corpse Gang to buy time for their alien spirit tribe. But isn't this too fake? It's right that the Crazy Corpse Gang doesn't believe it. Feng Qingxue suddenly laughed. The two were stunned at first, and then immediately understood what Feng Qingxue meant. Not a smoke bomb. I deliberately let them keep an eye on Suran. Feng Qingxue crossed her arms and put away her smile. Even if we seize this batch of smuggled goods, there will be another batch, and the next batch. In this case, why not take this opportunity to catch the fish? Hiss. The two of them gasped. Captain, this is not fishing, this is clearly playing with fire. That might not be a good idea, Captain. Young Marshal Zhang has come all the way here to warn us. If that guy makes any mistakes, he will hold him accountable later. Are you from the Alien Spirit Department or the Shadow Army? Does it mean that Zhang Dongchen has the final say over the Alien Spirit Department? Feng Qingshue's tone turned cold. I dare not. I will do it right away. Suran, what's wrong with your teeth? After school. Suran and Guku walked side by side, the latter's face full of confusion. Nothing, just cracking a walnut. Although the injuries on his face had been treated in the infirmary, his broken front teeth could not grow back, so Suran still had some lisp when speaking. What kind of walnut is so hard? Gukur touched it with her tender little hand and took a look, with a look of suspicion on her face. What the hell do you mean? Wouldn't you be strangled to death if you tell the truth? It's the walnut that Uncle Gu gave my dad last time. Suran looked around guiltily. Gukir couldn't help but burst out laughing. The walnuts are for plating, are you stupid? So I don't know, right? Suran was secretly annoyed. Just as he was about to speak, he was stunned by the girl's bright smile in front of him. You look so beautiful today. The afterglow of the setting sun just passed through the buildings on the street. Half of Gukir's body was immersed in the golden light, and under her curved eyelashes were her gem-like eyes. At this moment, it looks like it came out of a cartoon. Humph! Stop talking nonsense! Although she didn't give in, her eyes curved with a smile. She grabbed Suran's hand and said, Let's go! Where are you going? Let's go to the nearby Huayuan shopping mall. The graduation assessment will be held in a few days. This is our first time entering the forbidden ruins of the alien spirits, so we must buy the equipment in advance. The forbidden ruins of strange spirits. Since the revival of spiritual energy, space cracks have appeared all over the world, and on the other side of the cracks is a world full of undead and mutated creatures. The federal government uniformly named it the Forbidden Ruins of Alien Spirits. For this graduation examination, they will go to one of them to take a survival test. If the spiritual power test is just paper talk, then the Forbidden Ruins trial is a test of the students' comprehensive strength, not just their spiritual power realm. Planning ability, physical fitness, survival knowledge, etc. will all play a vital role. After all, it all started from the moment you stepped into the forbidden ruins of alien spirits. Strictly speaking, you are in another world. Even though the low-risk forbidden ruins used for the assessment even have troops stationed inside, it does not mean it is 100% safe. The mortality rate of graduation examinations over the years has reached as high as 19%. Although that time was due to an accident. But it only takes a small glimpse to show how dangerous the graduation examination is. In any case, no one takes it lightly. Including Suran. Huayuan Shopping Mall is near the second ring road of the city. Although there are many people there on weekdays, it is definitely not as lively as it is today. When the two arrived here, they were immediately shocked by the huge crowds of people in front of them. Crowded and shoulder to shoulder. There are so many people that it's exploding. Haha, isn't this Suran who cheated his way to the top of our number 7 middle school? I thought you didn't even dare to enter the Forbidden Ruins, but I didn't expect you to come here? The two were strolling. Suddenly a shrill laugh was heard. Hearing the sound, he looked. Sohu was followed by a group of adults, and some of them were staring at Suran with sarcasm on their faces. Brotherly, this is the waste from our number 7 middle school that I told you about. Suran was immediately happy when he saw them. He turned to look at Gukir. Kir, do you want to see the show? Gukir? There will be a wonderful performance soon, so watch it. Suran whistled into the distance and chuckled teasingly. Hey! Who are you calling a waste? I'm talking to you. What's wrong? Zohu looked provocative. But Pop, it happened very quickly. He was slapped on the forehead. Idiot, people are scolding you. Can't you hear it? Li Si has a savage look and his arms are covered with tattoos. Zohu was hit on the forehead before he reacted. There were quite a few people watching the fun around, and some had already started to hold back their laughter. His face flushed red, and he glared at Suran and cursed. Say it again, you dare? Don't think you're done just because you cheated to get first place. A waste is still a waste in the Forbidden Ruins. Zohu, do you feel a sense of accomplishment when bullying your classmates? Before Suran could say anything, Gukir stood up with a gloomy face. Almost the moment he saw Gukir, Zohu's expression changed. He could ignore Suran, but he really didn't have the courage to mess with Gukir. At the same time, the crowd also became agitated instantly. Wow! What a beautiful girl! She's just like the heroine in the comics. So cute! Beauty is justice, I stand on the side of the girls. This is definitely a goddess level. Does this girl need a boyfriend? As soon as the crowd of onlookers started talking, Suran immediately became unhappy. It's none of your business whether I have a boyfriend or not. He glared at the man, then pulled Gukir behind him and smiled at Zohu. You went to report me for cheating, and you are so helpless and furious? I told you, you were defeated in the spiritual power test, and you will be defeated again in the Forbidden Ruins. Good job. The words were so arrogant that everyone around was stunned. At this moment, Suran took the lead, protecting the girl tightly behind him, with a stern look and the momentum of a single man standing against the enemy. The only downside. Even though what he said just now was harsh, he was missing a front tooth. There is a slight leak in speaking. Temperament is flawed. Whose face turned red at this time, and he was obviously angry. Bang! Another slap on the forehead. Lisi glared at him and said, Go ahead! Go get him! Can you tolerate being humiliated in front of so many people? Of course Who couldn't tolerate it. But he didn't dare to go up. Let's not talk about Xiaoran for now. Just looking at Gu Kur's level 7 strength, he can't beat her. Don't be fooled by this harmless-looking guy. But whenever Who thought of her talent, he couldn't help but feel scared. Or let's just forget it. Let's let him go today and deal with him in the Forbidden Ruins later. Who shrank back guiltily. There was a sudden booing from all around. Cut. Lisi was so embarrassed. Come on, you are always so cowardly with us brothers. Why are you so cowardly at the critical moment? Who didn't say anything. Can this be called cowardly when it comes to things between scholars? But as the boos from all around him grew louder and louder, and some people's lips were almost curled up to their ears, his face turned red and he finally couldn't help it. All right. You asked for this. I'll beat you to a pulp in a one-on-one fight later. Don't regret it. Who deliberately emphasized the word one-on-one, for fear that Guku would join in the fight. This gave me a little courage. Besides, even if he didn't fight, Brotherly is still behind him. This person is a genuine Xian-level master, a true spiritual person. There are more and more people watching the fun around. When he heard that he was going to have a duel, he started shouting excitedly. That's right! Don't be a coward if you're a man! *CK him! It feels so exciting, I have to record it. Someone took out his cell phone with excitement. It has come to this. Who had no way out. Suran chuckled when he saw this. Gukur retreated behind him obediently. She believed that Suran could handle it on his own. She had this confidence. Smart girls know that they should not steal the boy's limelight at this time. Then Who roared angrily. Then the muscles all over his body suddenly began to swell and grow, and his shirt burst with a crack, and gray-brown hair began to spread over his body. The ferocious fangs and scarlet eyes slowly appeared. Just a moment. He turned into a werewolf nearly 2 meters tall. Beast transformation! Oh my god, this brother has quite the talent! And he is a werewolf with extremely powerful combat capability, and his realm is at the 5th level of the yellow rank. TSK, the other brother might have gone astray. This guy just disappeared. I'm afraid he'll be beaten so badly that his own mother won't recognize him. There was amazement all around. Who was very pleased with himself, and immediately let out a long roar to the sky. Good job. The Wolf King howled at the moon in broad daylight, not for anything else, just for one word. Handsome. So, now that we're done with this roar, can we start now? Suran tickled his ears, looking nonchalant. Awesome! Is this brother so awesome? In terms of temperament, this guy is still the best. Haha, I've wanted to teach you a lesson for a long time. If you kowtow and beg for mercy now, maybe I can let you go. Who sneered and waved his sharp claws in the air a few times. There was actually a whistling sound of breaking wind. Such terrifying explosive power made the people around him even more frightened. See? Unlike you who can only cheat, I have achieved the 5th level of yellow rank through my own practice. Who clenched his claws. The sound of a gas explosion suddenly exploded. It's really horrifying. If this claw lands on a person's head, just imagine the scene of a watermelon exploding. How about it? I'll give you some time to think about it. Kneel down and kowtow to me, your grandfather. looking at the surprised eyes around. Zhou, who was already feeling a little elated, he really enjoyed the feeling of being the center of attention. Right. That's the feeling. But the next second. Bang! When Zhou, who was still feeling proud of himself, he suddenly felt a powerful punch coming at him. Then its wolf head slammed heavily to the ground. A large hole about 1 meter wide appeared in the marble floor, and countless stones flew in all directions. I told you to hurry up. You've been babbling nonstop for quite some time. Can you hurry up a bit? Su Ran retracted his fist with a look of dissatisfaction. Everyone around was stunned. One punch. Just got knocked down by someone? At this moment, Zhou Hu only felt a buzzing sound on his forehead. He had already exited the beast state, and blood was gushing out like a small fountain. Sizzling sound coming out. He was also confused. Why? How come he fell down in a second? The people around were stunned, but one person looked a little unhappy. Li Si was originally a gangster in the neighborhood. Now that his younger brother was beaten up, where would he put his face as the eldest brother? Brothers, give me! However, he had just said half of his harsh words when he suddenly caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of his eye. Su Ran put one hand in his pocket and slowly raised the other hand, on which a dark and mysterious flame was floating. Black flame? Li Si's face changed drastically. His eyes darkened as he put his hands into his arms. Then he took out his cell phone. Hey! What? My wife is about to give birth. Okay, I'll be right there. The others were not stupid either, and they all turned around and left. Zhou Hu became anxious and quickly grabbed him. Li! Brother Li, you need to help me vent my anger. Aren't you single? Where did your sister-in-law come from? Li Si was so frightened that he shuddered and immediately pushed Zhou Hu away. Brother Li? Do I know you? Who are you? Don't call me that. Brother, I'm leaving first. Just give this guy a good beating. We are not familiar with each other, so it's none of my business. Su Ran didn't stop him. His eyes fell on Zhou Hu and he smiled. Because someone is about to start performing. Li Si and others, who were so aggressive just now, disappeared in a flash. He ran while cursing inwardly. Stupid thing. Why mess with a black flame alien spirit when there are so many people to mess with? If that thing really burns, there won't be even 2 ounces of your ashes left. Zhou Hu was dumbfounded. He swallowed tremblingly, then stood up with his head covered and gave Su Ran a friendly smile. Hey, brother! I just wanted to perform a show for you. Why are you so angry? There was a sudden burst of laughter all around. Perform a show? Sure! How about a pole dance? A whole segment. Su Ran grinned. She didn't expect Zhou Hu to take the initiative to bring it up. A big question mark appeared in Zhou Hu's confused eyes. Pole dancing? He was just giving himself a way out just now. He's a muscular man who's 1.80 meters tall. Let's not talk about whether he can do it or not. The key point is that you want him to dance on a pole in front of everyone? Isn't this a social death on the spot? Well, brother, how about we do it another day? The main thing is that there are no steel pipes here. Zhou Hu rubbed his hands awkwardly. Before Su Ran could speak. The people around were already excited at this moment. How could they miss such a good performance? Someone immediately took out a 2-meter-long steel pipe and inserted it into the ground with a clang. Brother, it's okay. I just happened to bring one with me. Feel free to use it. Zhou Hu? Thank you so much. Who the hell is going out with a steel pipe? What the hell are you doing? What do you want to do? Now that we have the props, let's start dancing. If you dare to stop, try it if I don't tell you to. Su Ran gave Zhou Hu a friendly smile, then took Gu Ke and walked out of the crowd. Zhou Hu was helpless. But Su Ran had already spoken, how could he not jump? So, in the crowded Huayuan shopping mall square, there was a beautiful scenery. In the center of everyone's attention, a shirtless boy was holding a steel pipe and posing. She also twisted her hips and rotated around from time to time. There were shouts of excitement, and screams all around, and countless people raised their mobile phones to record this scene. There were also several burly men who were so excited that their blood was boiling. Ola! With a deep shout, he immediately tore off his vest and joined in. In this way, Zhou Hu, who was originally the focus of everyone's attention, was now like a little lamb among a flock of sheep, with a frightened look on his face, and he was in a dilemma. Until long after Suran left, some people were excitedly discussing what had just happened. Wow! That little brother is so handsome! Once Black Flame comes out, no one will love him. He is definitely a male god. And the lowest realm is yellow rank 7, so strong. When did our Nanqing have the talent of the first sequence group A? It seems like it has existed before. What Suran didn't know was that what happened today had been edited into a video and posted online. For a while, it has been reposted countless times on platforms such as Bilibili, Penguin, and Info. The highest click rate exceeded 100,000, and it became a hot search. Of course, this is all later. At this time, Suran was holding Gukur's hand and squeezing towards the inside of the mall with difficulty. After finally squeezing out of the crowd, the two finally breathed a sigh of relief. Perhaps because she was a little tired, Gukir's face was flushed, her hair was slightly wet with sweat, and her plump chest was heaving. It is simply a combination of purity and temptation. What are you looking at me for? Gukur's pretty face turned red to her earlobes, and she quickly pulled her hand back. Don't stand there, we still have to buy things. Suran himself didn't even notice that he had been holding Gukur's hand all the way here. The soft and boneless touch, as well as the fragrance lingering on the palm of his hand, made him reluctant to leave. The reason why Huayuan Shopping Mall is crowded today is because it is the largest equipment wholesale market in the northern district of Nanqing. After entering the forbidden ruins of alien spirits, there are simply too many things needed. Portable folding tent, mountaineering pickaxe, military water bottle, and powerful focusing light. Of course, these are also sold at the entrance to the forbidden ruins, but the prices there are so high that no one would be willing to be taken advantage of unless they really need them urgently. The two of them bought a lot of things. Suran couldn't pay for so many things with his pitiful $10, so Gukur paid for all these things. But when they were about to leave, they were in trouble. How can I take so many things with me? Just when Suran was at a loss, Gukir once again showed him what it meant to be rich. She made a phone call, and 10 minutes later, a stretched black Maybach stopped in front of them. Miss! The visitor was a 60-year-old gentleman wearing a black tuxedo, with neatly trimmed gray mustache on both cheeks and a golden monocle on his face. The car door opened, and the old man skillfully took the things from Gukir's hand, and at the same time his eyes also noticed Suran. Master Shaoran is here too. Let me take you back first. No. Suran shrugged. Uncle I'm not a young master, just call me Shaoran. Okay, I'll take my leave now. Uncle He just smiled and was polite. Bye, see you tomorrow. Gukur also waved at Suran. See you tomorrow? Suran nodded. It was not until the car had left for a long time that Suran carried his things and walked towards home. Although Gukur and he are from the same hometown, their family backgrounds are very different. When they lived in the countryside, Suran knew one thing. That is, 1/3 of this 1,000-mile land belongs to the Gu family. As for after entering high school, Suran has never been to her house once. I heard from my dad before that the two families were old friends, but Suran just curled his lips and didn't take it seriously. It was almost dusk. Suran was walking down the block carrying a lot of bags, and just around the corner, a man hidden in the shadows was staring at him. Are you sure it's him? A deep voice came from the headset. Confirmed. He just used an ability in public, and it was definitely Black Flame. Do we need to arrest him now? The man said, with spiritual power flickering slightly in his hands. Surprisingly, there is a mysterious spiritual being. Just be patient. Do you think that woman would be so stupid as to be fooled by this guy so easily? You mean? The man's pupils shrank. Haha, since she wants to play, we should just take advantage of her. We should find a way to test her first, and then give them a big surprise. A man's sinister laughter came from the headset. Suran naturally didn't know that someone was following him in secret. He is still thinking about how to tell his father about that matter. As soon as I arrived at the bottom of the residential building, I saw a familiar figure sitting on a stone bench. A large group of people gathered around the stone table, pointing and talking with spit flying. Lao Su, you can be killed like this even though you took the initiative. Don't take the initiative and let me take over. You lousy chess player, why didn't you send troops just now? That's right. The soldiers who just sent back to the car will surely die. Suhai's face turned pale and veins on his forehead bulged out. Looking at the chessboard that had been destroyed to the point of being completely destroyed, he couldn't utter a word for a long time. Just at this moment, he saw Suran coming back. He immediately swiped his hand across the chessboard, stood up and waved his hand, saying, "My son is back. This move doesn't count because it's not finished yet." The old man on the opposite side was about to win, and at this moment he was also fuming. However, when they heard that Suran was back, a group of uncles and grandpas greeted him with smiles. "Haha, Shaoran is back. The boy is getting more and more energetic." Suhai walked up to take Suran's things, raised his head and said disdainfully, "It's just that I have good genes. Come on, it's a good thing Shaoran looks like his mother. I heard that Shaoran is going to college soon. It's time to consider having a girlfriend." "Hey! I told you my granddaughter is very well behaved. I'll take you two to meet her some other day." Suhai turned around and glared at her. "Your granddaughter? Isn't she just in elementary school? You old men don't need to worry about the little brat's affairs." Suran felt sweat on his head after hearing this and went straight home. "Every day when I pass by here, I have to experience this. If nothing else, who in this residential area doesn't know that Suran is studying in the spiritual class? When he graduates from university in the future, he will be a serious spiritualist. Even if you do nothing, the government will assign you a job. Anyone who has a daughter or granddaughter at home would have some thoughts about this young man with a bright future." The father and son went home. "What happened to your teeth?" Suhai asked with a frown. Suran's mind was not here at all, and she said casually, "Don't worry about it for now, I'll cook tonight, you go and rest first." "Yo!" The sun is rising from the west. The little brat usually doesn't even bother to wash the dishes after meals, but today he is taking the initiative to cook? Suhai just showed a hint of joy, but then he thought that things were not that simple. "You came last in the spiritual power test again today?" Suran was speechless. "Am I that bad?" Suhai didn't say anything, just looked at him expressionlessly. "Okay. I'm going to tell you that I got first place in the test. Are you going to refuse to believe it even if I beat you to death?" Suran was really angry. He had long wanted to come back and give his father a surprise. "How about it? Didn't expect that? Your son actually got first place in the exam." Sure enough, a trace of barely perceptible surprise flashed across Suhai's eyes, but it only lasted for a moment, and then quickly disappeared. "Oh, go cook." Suran. "Ah? That's it. That's it. I got first place in the test, and my spiritual power realm is now at the 10th level of the yellow rank." "Okay, got it." Suhai picked up the remote control and turned his eyes to the TV, not seeming surprised at all. Now it was Suran's turn to be confused. "Hello? I got first place in the exam, can you at least act happy?" After a while, he took a deep breath and thought to himself, "Forget it, I won't bother with you today." Then he got up and went into the kitchen. After a while, Suran took off the apron around her waist and looked at the table full of dishes, feeling very satisfied. "How about it?" He looked at Suhai nervously. Having come this far, Dad should be able to understand something, right? At this time, the aroma of food on the table was filling the air. There are broccoli, green vegetables, fried lettuce with leeks, spinach and chrysanthemum salad. Looking at the table full of juicy green dishes, Su Hai frowned. If you really don't want to do it and no one forces you to do it, what about you feeding the rabbits? Are there no other vegetables in the refrigerator? Su Ran was silent. It seems that Dad didn't realize what he wanted to express. 2. He doesn't usually go online, so he definitely doesn't understand these jokes. Helplessly, he just responded casually, and sat down to think of a solution while eating. Dad? Su Ran hesitated for a while and decided to give it a try first. You have something to say, but you can't say it. Su Hai picked up a piece of vegetables with chopsticks with a look of disgust, and then swallowed it whole with rice. Obviously it doesn't taste good. I have a friend who suddenly found out that he had become a father some time ago, but his son is not his biological son. What do you think he should do in this situation? Su Ran asked indirectly. Bang! Su Hai threw down his bowl and chopsticks, looking over with shock and anger. What did you say? You got Ku pregnant? I'm going to beat you to death today, you bastard! Puff! Su Ran directly spat out a mouthful of rice. Seeing that Su Hai was about to draw out the 7 wolves from his waist, he quickly waved his hands in fear. No, what are you thinking? How old am I? How old is Ku? Besides, we are just friends, not what you think. Su Hai looked at him suspiciously, and after confirming that he was not lying, he silently put the belt back. Well, you can't eat hot tofu in a hurry. He took a bite of the rice. Su Ran nearly choked to death on a mouthful of food, and it took him a long time to recover after coughing. God, you are taking advantage of me. So you didn't hear anything I said just now, right? The friendship between us is pure friendship. It seemed that hinting at this approach would definitely not work, and Su Ran suddenly put down his chopsticks and bowl, finally deciding to tell the whole story. Su Ran's face gradually became serious. Dad! I already know. What do you know? Su Hai frowned, not understanding what he was going to do. You don't have to hide it from me. I know I'm not your biological child, right? Su Ran looked serious. I just found out about this, but don't worry, I know how you've treated me over the years. Even if I'm not your biological child, I will definitely take care of you in your old age and will never ignore you. Su Hai was stunned at first. Then the veins on his forehead slowly began to bulge, and his hands under the table gradually clenched. Su Ran was completely unaware. He was about to pick up the bowl and continue eating, but he raised his head again as if he had thought of something. From now on, I will still call you Dad. After all, I have called you that for so many years. It would not be nice to suddenly change to Uncle. Come here. Su Hai waved his hand expressionlessly, his face unable to tell whether he was happy or angry. Su Ran suddenly realized that it seemed that his father was going to tell him the truth. Fine. He was mentally prepared. There is a cool breeze on the mid-autumn night. The residential area seemed quiet and peaceful, and every family was eating dinner happily. But just at this moment, the shrill screams resounded throughout the entire building. Aunt Wu, who was eating next door, was so frightened that her bowl dropped to the ground. Who beats their child so cruelly? The neighbors looked around and finally confirmed that the sound came from the Su family. They couldn't help but shake their heads. After a while, Su Ran looked at himself in the mirror with a bruised face and nose. Seeing another front tooth that had fallen out, he felt inexplicably aggrieved. At the same time, he now had only one doubt. Who on earth spread the rumor? When I catch you, I'll beat your mouth to pieces. There was a knock on the door. Seeing Su Hai barging in again, Su Ran was so scared that he shuddered all over. Come again? I was wrong! Su Hai's face turned pale. He grabbed the 7 wolves left on the table and threw over a small bottle of potion. After applying the medicine, go to bed early and get your teeth fixed tomorrow. Late at night. Su Ran touched his face. The redness, swelling and bruises had almost subsided. Although some traces could still be seen faintly, it was generally not so painful that he grimaced when he touched it. I don't know where this healing medicine came from, but it's so effective? Su Ran muttered. He had often been beaten by Lao Su before, and after he was beaten, he would throw him a bottle of medicine, but he never said what the medicine was. Suran doesn't know. Suran didn't dare to ask. The moonlight is dim. Even though the lights in the room were turned off, there was still some light shining in through the window. Suran sat in front of the desk and took out the trophy he had looted yesterday from the drawer, a spirit core of a Xian-level mutant black Ba. He was so absorbed in practicing yesterday that he didn't have time to take a good look at this thing. The so-called spiritual core. It is a crystal-like thing formed in the body of a spiritual creature. Based on current observations, almost every spiritual creature has a spirit core. As early as the beginning of the era of alien spirits, some people discovered that by absorbing the spiritual power in the spirit core, they could quickly increase their cultivation. Of course, this method was only limited to alien spirits. Ordinary people should stop daydreaming. In addition to spiritual power, each spirit bead contains the unique talents of that alien creature race. By absorbing the spirit core, the alien will have a certain chance to obtain the innate abilities of the alien creatures. The federal government named this newly acquired talent spiritual skill. Of course, there is only a certain probability of obtaining spiritual skills. And the probability is pitifully low. But even so, because high-level spirit cores are necessary for breaking through realms, and because of the spirit skills, spirit cores on the market are still in short supply. Naturally, the price remains high. The price of a Xian-grade spirit core ranges from thousands to hundreds of thousands, depending on its quality, from inferior to top grade. This is just the Xian level. As you move up to the Earth level, Heaven level, or even the Phase level, the price will become more and more sky-high. The Su family is just an ordinary family, which is different from those wealthy families. It is already the limit that old Su can support him to study spiritual science. As for spirit cores, spirit skills and so on. To be honest, Suran didn't want to add too much financial pressure to his family. This is also the reason why he kept this spirit core to himself. After all, he is now at the 10th level of the yellow rank. When he reaches the bottleneck in his cultivation, he must have a mysterious rank spirit core to break through. As for spiritual skills, that depends on whether the properties of this spirit stone match Suran's innate properties. If they don't match, no matter how high the quality is, it can only be used to absorb spiritual energy. Think of this. Suran clenched the spirit core in his hand and tried to infiltrate his mental power into it. If the attributes matched, the spirit core of the alien black demon should be at least a mid-level Xian level 1. Then it can be said that everything is ready for his next round breakthrough, including his first spiritual skill. But after Suran's mental power was completely immersed in it, the whole person was stunned for a moment. Under the perception of spiritual power, it was discovered that there was actually an independent space inside this spiritual core. This is not a spiritual core at all, it's just a spiritual weapon. Moreover, it is a storage magic tool made with supernatural powers similar to extraterritorial space. Suran was completely confused. No. How could there be a storage magic device inside Haiba's body? Everyone knows. Spiritual weapons are the result of a human skill that uses talent to attach supernatural powers to objects. To put it bluntly, they are man-made. How could such a thing appear in the body of a spiritual creature? Suran's face turned serious. Recalling Feng Qingshua's serious attitude in the alien spirit department today, he seemed to understand something. He was still wondering. Even if it was an attack by a mysterious alien creature, there was no need to mobilize such a large force. I thought the other party was just going through the motions because of pressure from Zhao Wenxiang's family. Now it seems that maybe it is because of this storage spirit bead. What exactly is inside? Suran's mind moved, and then a few more things appeared on the table out of thin air. A piece of paper. A safe. And a small and exquisite hand card. The card is made of black stone, with a ferocious totem carved on one side and 3 small characters engraved on the other side. Jiuyo Palace. What? It's already 2062, why are there still such childish names? Suran played with it for a long time but couldn't figure out what it was, so he put it aside. Immediately following, his eyes fell on the safe, and just as he was struggling to figure out how to open it, he heard a slight click of the lock. The box actually opened as expected. Damn! Why would you have a safe without a password? Are you trying to show off? As the cold mist dissipated, Suran could see clearly what was inside the box. Those were metal syringes filled with scarlet liquid, which emitted a strange and cold glow in the dim light through the transparent glass in the middle. What is this? Suran was confused, but luckily there was a piece of instruction sheet next to it, which clearly stated the name of the reagent. Type 6 Genetic Beastification Agent. Suran's face changed, but he still patiently continued to read on. However, the more he read, the more frightened he became. Finally, with a click, he slammed the box shut again. He finally understood now. Why do the people in the alien spirit department take it so seriously? There were clearly a batch of banned drugs in here, and Suran could imagine the horror that would result from using this drug just by looking at the instructions for use. This kind of thing is definitely not developed by the official. The fact that they were able to develop such a devilish reagent shows how cruel this force is. Forget it, let's find a way to hand this thing over. It's a hot potato if we keep it in our hands. He didn't want to get into trouble. No matter who this force is, it is definitely not something a middle school student like him can afford to provoke. Put away the things one by one. Suran then returned to the bed cross-legged. After calming down, he entered the inheritance tower through the system again. It was still the familiar tower, and it was still surrounded by the dark abyss that seemed to have remained unchanged for eternity. This time Suran walked directly into the Tai Chi hall. The hall was empty and quiet. As Suran's footsteps sounded, the majestic gaze on the throne turned to look over. Little doll, you're here again. Yes, here I come. Suran nodded. All I have to do is walk to your side, right? I don't believe it. I'm going to walk over to you no matter what you say today. The figure on the throne did not answer. But Suran had already taken a step forward. Last time, he could not move forward even 7 steps. And this time, after 7 steps, he still had strength left. Suran was delighted. Before, he was only at the first level of yellow rank, but now his cultivation has reached the 10th level of yellow rank, which is more than 10 times stronger than before. If nothing unexpected happens, he will definitely be able to reach the throne this time. The Imperial Inheritance. I am coming. There are more than 50 major categories of superpowers known in the world today, and the first sequence, or the top 9 superpowers in Group A, are all inherited from the Epic Emperor. Although supernatural talents vary, there is one universally recognized fact. That is it. Those who possess the Imperial Inheritance will be invincible among their peers. For example, the talent, King's Domain, inherited from the King of War Napoleon, its awakener once created the myth of defeating an entire heavy-armored legion single-handedly. And King's Domain is just Jiawu, which ranks 7th in Group A. Suran really wants to know. As a dignified Khan, what will be the imperial inheritance of Emperor Taizong Wenwu, the monarch of the Celestial Empire who was once congratulated by all nations? What rank can it get? Thinking of this, Suran felt his blood boiling, as if he had endless energy. He strutted. With an indomitable spirit, he solemnly took 10 steps forward. Then, just knelt on the ground. Suran. No. Why did I fall down? At this moment, he felt as if a mountain was pressing down on his head. Not to mention standing up, even his breathing was a little sluggish. The pressure from the surroundings seemed to burst his chest, and it was extremely difficult to just hold on. Not to mention moving forward. Damn it! No way? It's not even 1/5 of the way there yet, how come it's already weak? Get hard! Why can't my legs get hard again? At this moment, the eyes on the throne were looking at him indifferently. Recalling the lofty sentiments just now, Suran felt his face getting hot. No way? The momentum was so strong just now, but this is the result. This is very embarrassing. Ha, little guy. You may have made a mistake. This is your spiritual world. So if you want to get here, relying on physical strength is useless. A majestic voice sounded slowly, with a few hints of relief in the tone. But it's not bad. Just consider it as a reward for you. While talking, a milky white light ball flew towards Suran. It looks like this is the reward this time. However, Suran did not leave in a hurry, but immediately shouted, "Wait a minute, Senior!" What else? Suran stepped back and felt less uncomfortable. He then asked, "Senior, this inheritance tower has 7 floors. You are on the first floor. Then who is on the upper floors?" Taizong smiled. Haha, it's too early for you to think about this. If you can't even get to my place, then don't think too much about the above. All right. Come again next time. The majestic figure waved his robe lightly, and Suran felt his figure rapidly retreating, and the surrounding scene began to disappear rapidly. Immediately following, he shuddered and woke up from the bed. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the skill, Tai Chi Mastery. The system's sound suddenly rose. Before Suran could react, countless martial arts moves suddenly appeared in his mind. These were not theories, but he immediately mastered them as if he had accumulated years of experience. To put it simply, in the past, when Suran fought, he would just slap and punch, or kick. Although it feels very imposing and the posture is very handsome. But in the eyes of experts, he is no different from an idiot. But now it's different. If someone punches him in the face now, Suran can instantly think of countless ways to respond. Although he is not yet a world-class Tai Chi master, he is much stronger than before. It seems that the realm has not improved. But now Suran has no problem beating the previous 3 or 5. Surprise. Suran began to ponder over what Taizong had just said. If physical strength is useless, then we can just rely on mental strength. This is a bit more difficult to deal with. For now, there is almost no method in the world that can systematically improve mental power. The growth of the mental power of all psychics seems to be a natural process. Are we just going to wait like this? Suran was a little reluctant. Even without mentioning the imperial inheritance, every time he can go further, he will get more rewards. The 2 previous rewards had already made him taste the sweetness. Now letting him wait is undoubtedly the same as just letting him look but not touch, which makes him very itchy. But after thinking about it, Suran couldn't find a better way. I had no choice but to give up. The next day, Suran was awakened by another knock on the door. He was sitting cross-legged while practicing when he was so frightened that his whole body trembled. When he opened his eyes, he was in a daze. It took him a long while to focus his eyes. No, I have to take some time to talk to him about this next time, otherwise he will be scared to the point of mental breakdown sooner or later. After a night of practice, Suran felt that his cultivation had improved again. If his cultivation was likened to a progress bar, he was now only halfway to a breakthrough. As expected, the speed at which I practice all night long is many times faster than that of ordinary people. He smiled happily, and suddenly seemed to realize something. This is... Just as he was about to take a closer look, an impatient voice rang out from outside the door. How long do you want Kurt to wait for you? If you don't get up, I'll come in and lift the quilt. Uncle Sue, don't worry today. We don't have any classes next. We're going to school today just to check the grouping and get familiar with the team members for the final assessment. Gu Ker's gentle voice sounded outside the bedroom door. That won't work. I can't let you wait forever. Just wait a moment. I'll go and grab that guy for you. Seeing that Su-hai had walked to the bedroom door with a gloomy face, Suran finally opened the bedroom door with a smile. Dad, I may be back a little late tonight. Su-hai said nothing, turned around and walked aside. Aren't you going to ask me why? Suran looked confused. This was not like Suran's usual style. Bang! A heavy slap landed on the back of his head, and Su-hai threw 10 yuan in his face expressionlessly. Don't call me Dad, I'm your uncle. This slap let Su-ran know what fatherly love is like a mountain. Even after he left the house, he still felt a burning pain on the back of his head. What's wrong with Uncle Su? Did you two have a fight again? Looking at Su-ran, who kept rubbing his head, Gu-ke looked curious. Su-ran's eyes twitched, and he laughed. Nothing, let's not talk about this for now. By the way, wasn't the assessment assignment list released last night? Did you check it for me? I checked, but your teammates are not from our school. One is from number 2 middle school, and the other is from number 17 middle school. They seem pretty good. That's good, as long as you don't hold me back. Su-ran nodded. There are a total of 19 middle schools in South City, and the probability of being assigned to this school is low. The two walked to the school. There was a constant stream of students coming and going at the school gate, not only from our school, but also from other schools. F***ck, that girl is so hot. She has a really nice body, someone suddenly exclaimed. Immediately following, the people around him immediately widened their eyes and moved away in panic. Next second, bang! With a loud bang, the man was thrown out and fell heavily to the ground like a kite with a broken string. Su-ran and the other person just arrived at the school gate. Then I saw this jaw-dropping scene. A group of students even hid far away to avoid being affected. The one who made the move was the girl who was being criticized. She retracted her round, white legs and cursed with an unhappy look on her face. You dare to tease me? I'm in a good mood today if I don't kick you to death. Su-ran. Big sister. Just because someone said you have a good figure, you just gave in to them? Grew up eating gunpowder? Do you dare to get even hotter? Su-ran looked over there, and then never looked away again. The girl was very tall, almost as tall as Su-ran, who was 1.80 meters tall. The belly-exposing shorts and hot pants showed off her proud figure perfectly. The chestnut short hair that reaches the ears and the slightly heroic face give her a royal sister aura that is simply overwhelming. But what really made Su-ran unable to take his eyes away was it was the short shirt that was stretched so high that it looked as if the buttons would fly off in the next second. Not to mention Su-ran, many people around also swallowed their saliva. Does it look good? Just as Su-ran was staring intently, a gentle question suddenly came to his ear. Nice. Su-ran only felt the heat in his ears and replied subconsciously. Then he was stunned. When I turned around, I saw Gu-ke's gentle smile. It looks good bullshit, it's just SOSO, hiss. He only felt a sharp pain in his waist, and then his whole face wrinkled. That's all? I see you want to stick your eyes on her, what's wrong? Am I any worse than her? Gu-ke said this, puffing out her chest with a hint of dissatisfaction. I have to say, Gu-ke is 1.68 meters tall, which is not short, and her figure is petite in every aspect. But one's figure depends on who you compare her with. The one in the distance. It can only be described as exaggeration. Su-ran glanced at it and said, Not bad, but I can't afford it. Gu-ke was startled at first, then her pretty face flushed and her beautiful eyes instantly glared angrily. You can't afford it. I must strangle you to death today. No, I was wrong. Su-ran quickly begged for mercy. Kur is the most beautiful. The most gentle. Those who look fake at first glance, I still like the real ones that I can grasp. God, be more realistic. Gu-ke stamped her feet in anger, and then gave him a gentle caress. While the two of them were fighting, the students watching around also began to whisper. This girl has a hot body, but her temper is also a bit hot. If I marry her, I'm afraid you'll be stuck on the washboard for the rest of your life. Washboard? Be more confident, bro, it's the ICU. Hear the discussion. Someone immediately looked horrified again and made a gesture to silence the crowd. Shh! Stop talking, don't you know that person? That girl is the big sister of number 2 middle school. Her father is the leader of the underworld in South City. See those people around her? They are all her younger brothers. She hates it most when people comment on her figure. If you are tough, you can try to see if you can withstand her kick. Oh. By the way, she is at the 6th level of the yellow rank. Level 6? Those people's eyes widened instantly, and they looked at each other in tacit understanding. Turn around and leave. I can't afford to offend you. I can't afford to offend you. Student, who allowed you to hit someone in school? Please come with me to the Academic Affairs office. When the dean heard about the fight, he hurried over. Huh? When did I hit anyone? I was just sparring with this classmate from your school. If you don't believe me, you can ask him, did I hit anyone? The girl raised her eyebrows. There was a footprint on the boy's clothes, and he crawled up from the ground with a painful look on his face. He was about to speak. 5 or 6 people around the girl immediately glared at her. No! We were just sparring. The boy immediately backed off. Look! The girl spread her hands, looking innocent. Since everything is fine, I'll go to school first. I still have to meet my future teammates. The dean was so angry that he just stared blankly, but there was nothing he could do. After all, this girl is the apple of number 2 middle school's eye. If we really want to investigate, it might escalate into a school conflict. The irrelevant people behind you are not allowed to enter the school. After holding it in for a long time, he could only blurt out these words stiffly. But the girl had already waved her hand, left the group of young men who were accompanying her, and walked away carefree. Okay, I was wrong. At this time, Suran was tormented for a long time and finally begged for mercy. Really wrong? Gukur was still a little angry, and looked a little naive. I was so wrong. I promise I will never look at it again. Suran raised his hand solemnly. With repeated assurances. Gukir finally calmed down. Then the two of them went to their respective assembly points to make the final team member assignments before the exam. The final examination will be conducted in the Forbidden Ruins of Alien Spirits. The Forbidden Ruins are filled with dangers, so for safety reasons, almost all the alien spirits will travel in groups and rarely go alone. Decades passed. Forming or joining a team of alien spirits has almost become an iron rule agreed upon by all alien spirits. In the Forbidden Ruins of Alien Spirits, trying to be a hero is a very stupid thing to do. Therefore, during each year's final examination, each school will conduct a certain degree of random matching based on each candidate's talent category. This will form a minimum team of 3 people. So to speak. The graduation assessment not only looks at personal ability, but also the tacit understanding and teamwork ability between the candidate and other team members. As for why it is random matching, it is to prevent unfair phenomena such as strong combinations. Of course, absolute fairness does not exist. Who doesn't want to match up with a strong thigh? As for Suran, by this time, he had arrived at the assembly point on the playground. He found C-107 according to the area signs, and then began to wait for his teammates. The list shows his 2 teammates. They are Han Wenxuan and Jiang Ji. Let's not talk about the boy for now. Just looking at the name, the girl should be a quiet and well-behaved girl. Suran couldn't be happier to have this type of teammate. C-107! Finally found it. Are you here yet? Hello, my name is Han Wenxuan. Suran was lost in thought when suddenly a slender, white hand stretched out in front of him. He looked up. Then I saw that handsome face and those surging 36E breasts. What the hell? Why is it this person? Are you Han Wenxuan? Suran's eyes widened. How the hell did this fit the word Wenxuan? Well, it's nice to meet you. Han Wenxuan frowned slightly, but still didn't put his hands down. Suran finally came back to his senses. But just as he was about to extend his hand, he suddenly felt a chill on his back. A glance from the corner of my eye. Only then did he notice that Gukur's gathering point was not far away, and her pretty face was staring at him fiercely. Suran shuddered. He retracted his hand with a look of annoyance. Then it's too early for you to be happy. Han Wenxuan? Why does this guy deserve a beating? Suran's face straightened and he lowered his eyes indifferently. I, Suran, am a cool guy who doesn't like to talk. Hearing Suran's name, Han Wenxuan's face suddenly turned cold. Then let me ask you, cool and handsome guy, can you take a beating? Suran smiled contemptuously and glanced at her coldly. Not resistant to beatings. Don't be fooled by his calm appearance. In fact, he is extremely panicked. Are you asking your teammates right away if they can take a beating? I am a Black Flame, ranged mage, not a melee tank. Suran's legs began to tremble when he thought of the scene he saw at the school gate. Do you think that's funny? Han Wenxuan's expression became even more unfriendly. Suran, right? A Black Flame psychic from Class 2, Grade 3 of Number 7 Middle School, but he has a low talent and has been stuck at the first level of the yellow rank for 3 years. He cheated in the final spiritual power test and became the top scorer. The whole school knows about it. You investigated me? Suran was silent, then slowly raised her head. I advise you to give up this idea. There is no result in having a crush on me. Han Wenxuan was stunned at first. When she reacted, her pretty face turned red instantly, and she kicked Suran hard without saying a word. Damn! No martial ethics? Suran cursed inwardly, immediately pulled away and dodged, then blocked with his right hand and tightly grasped the long leg that was kicking towards him. Should I say it or not? Quite smooth and elastic. Let me go! Han Wenxuan obviously didn't expect Suran to react so quickly, but then he realized that his posture was very indecent, and immediately scolded him with a red face. She was originally wearing hot pants. This leg lift. Suran's pupils shrank, and he quickly let go of her hand. TSK, 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 I didn't expect you to like Pikachu. Is it because my Psyduck is not good enough, or is it because my Squirtle is not good enough? Han Wenxuan's face turned completely red, and even his ears were bright red. She gritted her teeth and said, I'll kill you! Can you two stop fighting? The 3 of us are teammates who will be together for life and death in the forbidden ruins of the otherworldly spirits. Can't we be more friendly? Suddenly, a weak male voice sounded nearby. Suran was stunned at first, then turned back suddenly. F***CK, brother, when did you come? Standing next to him was a thin boy wearing glasses, with a clean crew cut and simple clothes. He spread his hands helplessly. I've been here for quite some time, and you two have been busy fighting. My name is Jiangji. I won't team up with this guy. Han Wenxuan did not continue to attack, but the anger on his face did not diminish. At this time, a teacher came over to check whether everyone was present. She walked over immediately. Report, I want to change my teammate. I don't want to form a team with this kind of people. The teacher was a man in his 30s whom Suran had never seen before. But at this time he frowned slightly. The list has been finalized. Unless the players give up the exam, they cannot be replaced on their own. Then I don't want to team up with him. It's like I want you to do it, violent freak. Suran curled her lips. Say it again. Han Wenxuan's eyes widened. Seeing that the two were about to fight again, Jiangji hurried over to stop them. The teacher at the side was also very troubled. If a team had reached such a level of incompatibility, how could they enter the forbidden ruins of alien spirits and take the final examination? In times of crisis, how can you trust your teammates with your back? Just follow the posture of these two people. If they don't stab you in the back, you're already being tolerant. Han Wenxuan spoke again. She raised her eyebrows and said coldly, Okay. Since we both can't stand each other, why don't we have a competition? How about the loser leave on his own accord? Since it is stipulated that only team members can give up the exam voluntarily, this seems to be the only solution at the moment. Okay. Suran nodded. In his current state, he really didn't dare to team up with this woman. Things have come to this point, and even the teacher can only watch with a headache and can't find a reason to stop it. Don't accuse me of bullying you. I won't use my supernatural powers or spiritual strength to fight you. If you lose, please stop making excuses. Han Wenxuan's face was full of disdain, and he seemed to be very confident in his own abilities. "Oh, thank you so much," Su Ran responded casually. The movements of the two of them have attracted countless eyes. At this time, people around were already talking about it. "Those two people over there seem to be about to fight? It looks like this team is about to disband." "Oh my God! Isn't this Su Ran? He is in the same team as Han Wenxuan? Why doesn't he just hug his thigh? Who do you think will win? What do you think? Han Wenxuan is proficient in fighting and freestyle combat, and he even obtained a black belt in karate some time ago. What the hell? What the hell is this? Won't it just knock him down in an instant? Just wait for Su Ran to get beaten." Gu Kur also noticed the movement here and suddenly became nervous. What is this guy doing? Don't let him go too far and make things so tense. She knew Su Ran's strength. If he could use all his strength, with his level 10 spiritual power plus the Black Flame ability, he would definitely not lose. But now these are not available. Gu Kur looked worried, and her palms began to sweat slightly. The only consolation for her now is that in her memory, Su Ran is definitely not a brainless and reckless person, since he dared to agree. You should be able to find your own solution, right? The discussions around were getting louder and louder. More and more people gathered around, and Han Wenxuan frowned slightly when he saw this. "You heard it too, you are no match for me no matter what. If you take the initiative to withdraw now, you can also save some face for yourself, otherwise it will not just be a simple matter of embarrassment later." She meant well. Although the words sound arrogant, they are indeed based on self-confidence. It's been so many years, why are there still people thinking about Liang Jingru's courage? What if you lose, wouldn't it be a slap in the face? Su Ran scratched his forehead. Han Wenxuan's pretty face turned pale, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Then just wait for your beating." That? Jiang Ji stepped forward to stop him, as if he had something to say. "Get out of the way, it's none of your business." Han Wenxuan pulled it away, then took a leap and rushed over. Just like before, a whip kick came over fiercely, but this time it was obviously much faster and more powerful. At this time, Su Ran calmly spread out his arms, bent his waist and lowered his waist. It is the starting posture of Tai Chi. The teacher on the side saw this and his eyes suddenly lit up. Tai Chi. There was a commotion around. No way! Is there really someone who uses Tai Chi as a fighting technique? Shut up! With real Tai Chi, I can beat 10 of you to death without any problem. But do you think Su Ran knows real Tai Chi? If you're afraid, just put on airs, right? Just as everyone was discussing, Han Wenxuan's leg had already kicked over. Su Ran was calm and composed, and he unhurriedly performed a wild horse mane split kick, and Han Wenxuan's powerful kick was easily knocked aside. Even her body staggered. The surroundings became a little quieter. Han Wenxuan also had a look of disbelief on her face, but she soon became angry and threw another hook straight at Su Ran's jaw. And next, Su Ran then performed Tai Chi moves that were just like in a textbook. Facing Han Wenxuan's extremely fierce attack, Su Ran remained extremely calm. With the left hand, do a grabbing the bird's tail move, a blocking punch with the right hand. Then there was another cross hand. What's the deal with this amazing elasticity? Su Ran couldn't help but feel shaken. Everyone around was stunned. Su Ran's state at this moment is like, no matter how heavy the rain and strong the wind are, I will remain unmoved. 2 minutes later, Su Ran used the 7-star step forward technique and then the rest step grappling technique, and directly grabbed Han Wenxuan's wrist with his backhand, pressing him tightly in front of him, making him unable to move at all. Han Wenxuan was completely stunned. The surroundings also became silent. What's worse? At this moment, he opened his mouth wide, and the spicy strips in his hand fell to the ground with a click. All was quiet. The originally noisy playground was now filled with a very quiet group of people. Therefore, many people saw this jaw-dropping scene. Su Ran smiled slightly and let go of his hand. Just showing off. Still have to know when to stop. But the surrounding area was already in an uproar. Is this Su Ran? He's so damn handsome. You just said that Tai Chi can't be used for fighting. Can you go up and try it out? Gukur, who had been nervous, now breathed a sigh of relief, but her pretty face was full of confusion. When did Su Ran learn Tai Chi? When did he secretly take extra lessons? Teacher! I want to learn this! Let's be honest, this cricket. The senior high school students on the playground were extremely excited. The smooth and flowing moves they had just displayed were simply enough to make their blood boil. The teacher beside him glared after hearing this. I really still want to learn. Tai Chi emphasizes meaning rather than form, so if you want to really practice it, in addition to solid basic skills, you need more understanding of its essence. Without 20 to 30 years of training, it will be difficult to even reach the level of mastery, said the teacher with a serious face. He was surrounded by students who were listening with great interest. Some people nodded frequently. Makes sense. It's just, Someone noticed something was wrong. 20 or 30 years of training? But Su Ran is only 18 years old. What? He is the only one who doesn't drink mangpa soup? Su Ran, who did you learn this from? Seeing everyone's puzzled looks, Su Ran frowned. What? Don't you guys watch movies? Tai Chi Master. Everyone? Why don't you tell me about the martial arts secret book that you bought for $10? Hee, this might be talent. The teacher looked at Su Ran with some envy. Some people were dissatisfied. I have talent too. I can also do the hair transformation technique. Han Wenxuan only reacted at this time. She was still in a semi-dizzy state, and at this moment she was in severe self-doubt. Is my karate black belt fake? The Tai Chi that people learn from watching movies is better than mine. But when she came to her senses, she was no longer angry, because Su Ran had proved with his strength that he was not the waste that others said he was. Even if you don't have a strong talent for cultivation, just this Tai Chi fighting technique. That's enough to make her pay attention. Since Su Ran is strong enough, she has no reason to ask him to quit the team. Figured this out. I'm sorry. I apologize to you. I underestimated your ability, but I don't want to quit the team. I hope you can forgive me. Han Wenxuan stepped forward and bowed very seriously. She was just that kind of person, and she would do anything as long as she could defeat her. Everything is easy. F***CK. Han Wenxuan actually lowered his head on his own initiative. Can you believe this? The people around widened their eyes. Looking at Han Wenxuan's sincere attitude in front of him, Su Ran was a little confused. Are you convinced now? According to the script, you shouldn't say anything harsh. And then will you definitely come back? Forget it, you don't have to quit the team. But from now on, the captain of our team. You take charge. Han Wenxuan is extremely decisive. You didn't seem to ask for my opinion? Jiangji scratched his head, still holding an old smartphone in his hand. Your opinion doesn't matter. Han Wenxuan glanced at him arrogantly, then grabbed the phone and asked. What are you looking at? You haven't put your phone down since just now. As she spoke, she opened the book and started reading. The video playing above is the scene where Su Ran knocks down Zhou Hu with one punch. The number of likes for the following comments has already exceeded 10,000. Who is this boss? What the hell? Black Flame? Boss, please retract your magical power. A level 5 expert is so terrifying. But that's it. Brother is so handsome. The last time I saw someone this handsome was last time. Good fellow, the old writer upstairs is one of them. What a pity, such a handsome boy, but he has a little leak in his words. Han Wenxuan was stunned, and then her pretty face turned red. She glared at Jiangji and said, Why didn't you tell me just now? A 5th-level alien spirit that has completely transformed into an animal. Han Wenxuan himself couldn't even knock him down with one strike. But Su Ran did it easily. So that means the rumor is wrong and Su Ran may not have cheated. He is truly at the 9th level of the yellow rank. And I just laughed at him? The clown is actually me. Oh. It's so embarrassing. I want to show you, but you won't let me. Jiangji spread his hands helplessly. He had seen this video before coming here. So I have 100% confidence in Su Ran's ability. Han Wenxuan's face turned red with shame, and he wished he could find a hole in the ground to crawl into. Okay. From today on, our C-107 team is officially established. Su Ran waved his hand. The matter is over. Although it is just a randomly assembled team, for most students, this will be the first team in their lives. As the first teammates in life, after the team assessment, more of them will choose to enter the same university. Become teammates for the rest of your life. What if the team is not united and there are conflicts? A team like this should forget about advancing. Next, the school leader took the stage to give his final speech, and the audience was drowsy listening to him. Most teams are busy getting to know their new players. After communication, Su Ran also learned the basic situation of the other two people. Han Wenxuan. Yellow rank 6 level, Beast transformation, ability, belongs to the 5th sequence, Wu Yi. Among all the assessment candidates in South City, he is considered to be the best at the top. Jiangji. Yellow rank 4 level, spiritual wave, ability, belongs to the 8th sequence, Rinchou. The surrounding teams were almost familiar with each other at this time, and some of those with similar interests had already started laughing. You play League of Legends too? You're kidding. The best mid laner in South City, a master of Jialu. Stop bragging, both of you. Check out the official weapons auction website. Someone has sold a spiritual weapon. F*CK. I can buy a house in Kyoto with this price, right? Forget it, this is not something we can watch. It would be nice to have a machete. Here, weapons. Su Ran suddenly thought of something. Your talent should be supplemented by weapons, right? He looked at Jiangji. Spiritual wave is a type of energy-related supernatural power. As the name suggests, it releases the spiritual power in the body to cause damage. If this ability can be assisted by powerful weapons, its lethality will be considerable. After hearing this, Jiangji took out a straight-handled, inch-long broad knife from his backpack. Su Ran. Han Wenxuan? No, I asked you to get a weapon, so why did you take out the kitchen knife from home? Jiangji's face flushed red, and he explained in a low voice. My family is poor, and I can go to school only with various subsidies. A weapon made by a good craftsman costs at least several thousand or tens of thousands. Su Ran was silent after hearing this. Although his family's conditions were not good, at least old Su could support him in his studies. After the resurrection of spiritual energy, becoming a spiritual being is definitely the best way for a poor carp to transform into a dragon. But for students whose family conditions are not very good, the huge expenses required to maintain the practice will definitely make the family overwhelmed. Oh, how big of a deal is this? Han Wenxuan stepped forward and patted Jiangji on the shoulder. We will be teammates from now on. Your business is my business. I'll have someone find a weapon suitable for you later. Han Wenxuan's family really doesn't lack this little money. One could even say he is wealthy and powerful. After all, my dad is the boss of the underworld. How bad can his family be? After hearing this, Jiangji was stunned at first, and then his eyes slowly turned red. Thanks. What are you thanking me for? Your strength has improved, which will also help our team. Helping you is the same as helping myself. Han Wenxuan saw it clearly. Su Ran also smiled when he saw this. It seems that this team is doing quite well. To celebrate the formation of the team, let's take a photo. Han Wenxuan took out his cell phone. The three of them stood in a row, with Su Ran squeezed in the middle. Jiangji, come closer here, the two of you squat a little, and look at the camera. Su Ran's face was squeezed out of shape. No. Taking pictures is taking pictures. Don't hit people with the ball. After the photos came out, the three of them added each other as WeChat friends, and each of them got a photo. In the photo, Han Wenxuan is very domineering. Jiangji is reserved and shy. Su Ran was sandwiched in the middle, with half of his face squeezed and looking like he couldn't breathe. Just, really enjoy it. It was afternoon. After disbandment. Suran greeted Gu Kir and then walked towards La Yao's office. The novelty of getting to know teammates had worn off and most people had left the playground. The campus seemed empty as the holidays approached. Next up is the extremely important final examination, and the students all go back to make final preparations for the exam. Suddenly, the roar of a car sounded behind me. Suran looked back and saw two black Mercedes-Benz speeding. Is it still driving so fast in school? Wrong. Suran's face suddenly changed, because the two cars were speeding up, and their direction was actually towards him. Bump into it! Kill him! Someone must pay for my son's death! On the passenger seat, the middle-aged man in a suit and tie had a sinister look on his face and was roaring madly. The Mercedes-Benz sped across the grass on the playground, its wheels rolling up the turf and leaving two deep ruts behind it. Even if Suran reacted quickly, he didn't have time to dodge. Bang! After a loud bang, Suran was thrown into the air, drew an arc in the air, and fell heavily to the ground. He spat out a large mouthful of blood, and his internal organs seemed to have shifted, with excruciating pain in his chest. There is no doubt that the ribs are broken. The Mercedes-Benz stopped and 5 men in suits got out, led by a middle-aged man with a gloomy face. Suran climbed up from the ground with difficulty. If he hadn't undergone hair removal and marrow cleansing, his physical fitness would have been greatly enhanced. Otherwise, it would just be based on what happened just now. Even if he wasn't killed on the spot, he would definitely be paralyzed for life. This is coming to take his life. As if he didn't expect Suran to be able to get up, the middle-aged man's face became even uglier. Come on, as long as you can kill this guy, I'll take care of it. I'll reward you each with 500,000. After hearing this, the 4 bodyguards beside him walked towards Suran in silence. Zhao Guohua, Zhao Wenqiang's father. Suran finally recognized this man at this time. He had seen his photo on the school's leadership bulletin board. Chairman of the Zhao Group. He is also one of the school directors of No. 7 Middle School. Run! Suran just glanced at the 4 bodyguards and immediately made a judgment, then ran towards the teaching office building. The fluctuations in spiritual power alone can be used to make a preliminary assessment. All 4 of them have strength above the Xian level. I didn't kill your son. Didn't you read the police autopsy report? Why are you seeking revenge against me? Suran ran while cursing without looking back. Zhao Guohua wanted to kill him. It was obvious that he would blame him for Zhao Wenqiang's death. Why is it that my son died but you are still alive? Don't think I don't know. You were there that day. With Zhao Guohua's means, it would be easy to find out. He roared fiercely. I don't care. Someone must be held responsible for Wenqiang's death. Since he is dead, you can't escape responsibility. Man. Suran just felt a surge of anger. This guy was definitely a fucking lunatic. No wonder Zhao Wenqiang has such a domineering personality. It's true that like father, like son. Right at this moment, there was a sound of breaking wind behind me. Alarm bells rang wildly in Suran's mind. Even without looking back, he instinctively rolled to the side. Almost as he dodged, a straight knife over 2 feet long brushed past his head and stabbed into the ground. Suran broke out in a cold sweat instantly. If he had reacted a little slower, he might have been beheaded. A critical moment. Suran almost wanted to use the Xian-level puppet. But he quickly rejected this idea, not to mention how long he could last with just a Xian-level puppet at this time. If the matter of the inheritance tower was exposed, even if he had 10 lives, they would not be enough for him to die. He is very clear about the truth that an innocent man is guilty of possessing a treasure. Suran jumped up from the ground with a ricochet movement. Because the amplitude of the movement was too large, his face was distorted with pain. But he had no time to think about anything else at this moment, because the straight knife was pulled out from the ground out of thin air and stabbed towards Suran again. Object controlling ability. This is such bad luck. It just so happened that at the critical moment when I was being chased, I encountered this kind of magical skill to bully the weak. Suran didn't even think about it. The spiritual power in his body began to circulate wildly, and he waved his hand, dodged quickly, and jumped into the shrubbery flower bed in the middle of the steps, continuing to escape upwards. And in the eyes of the 5 people behind him, suddenly, a large ball of inky black flame appeared in the air. The moment the straight sword made of fine steel passed through the flame, it began to melt. After passing through the black flames, it had turned into a ball of red iron slurry and smashed into the bushes. Hiss! White smoke rose up and directly ignited the flower bed. The ball of black flame did not slow down and continued to fly towards the 4 people chasing behind it. Black flame! The 4 people's expressions changed visibly, and there was a hint of fear in their eyes. Fortunately, the black flame was not fast. After the 4 people dodged in a panic, the inky black flame smashed into one of the Mercedes-Benz cars. A moment later, this Mercedes-Benz E-Class worth hundreds of thousands of dollars has turned into a pile of melted scrap metal. This is the talent of the first sequence. Jiahai Black Flame. It is said that it is enough to melt the hafnium alloy with the highest melting point in the world. If you get a little bit of this stuff. The 4 of them looked at each other with lingering fear and swallowed with difficulty. Seeing the 4 people slow down their pace, Xiao Guohua shouted angrily. What are you waiting for? How can he, a high school student of the yellow rank, kill you? 2. Even with the black flame ability, this kid is just a high school student. Look at its method. It's obvious that he's not proficient in operating it yet, he's too inexperienced. The 4 of them breathed a sigh of relief, but their expressions became noticeably more serious, and they quickened their pace to chase after Suran. But it took just this little delay. Suran had already run 100 meters away and was about to enter the circular teaching and office building. Stop him! Zhao Guohua shouted angrily from behind. If he really ran into the teaching building, who knows where this kid would hide, and he might really run away. Suran also knows this. So at the beginning he ran desperately in this direction, hoping that if he was lucky he might meet the teacher on duty. In front of the teacher, does Zhao Guohua dare to kill someone in public? Suran's face froze. Grass. Maybe he really dares. He is the school director, who among the teachers dares to offend him? No wonder he dared to commit the crime in school. He must have planned to use money to silence others. Suran ran as fast as he could while keeping an eye on the situation behind him. But it would have been better if he hadn't looked at it. After he looked at it, his pupils shrank immediately. Then one person seemed not to wait for the others. His speed suddenly increased and he turned into a black shadow and pounced towards Suran. Damn! Strengthening ability. And the speed is enhanced. Suran understood that the 4 people Zhao Guohua brought were obviously there to prevent him from escaping. 100 meters distance. The man arrived in the blink of an eye. You're so damn fast. Why are you being a bodyguard if you're not going to the Olympics? While Suran was cursing, he threw out another ball of black flame. However, the black flame is very lethal, but not very fast. The big man in the suit dodged almost effortlessly, and by the time Suran reacted again, a heavy punch had already landed on his chest. Puff! The blood spurted into a bloody mist. Suran felt as if he was hit by a car again. He was knocked back more than 10 meters and hit hard on the stone pillar in the middle of the circular teaching building. The sound of bones breaking rang clearly in my ears. Suran wanted to open his mouth and greet the other party's ancestors, but you are just focusing on hitting the wound, right? But as soon as he opened his mouth, blood gushed out again. Wow! A mouthful of blood stained the clothes on his chest red. Suran had already lost his ability to move, and it was impossible for him to continue escaping. But he calmed down now, because he saw a familiar figure. Right above the circular teaching and office building, a middle-aged teacher with a big belly was leaning on the railing, puffing smoke, as if he was waiting for someone. At this time, I happened to see Suran, who was seriously injured below. Wait! I want to kill him myself and avenge Wenchang. The 4 bodyguards were not in a hurry to end Su Ran's life. Zhao Guohua, panting, followed him with a sinister look. It's these few seconds of delay. They had already lost their last chance to kill Su Ran. Because the next second, the middle-aged teacher's figure was already blocking Su Ran. Stop! Su Ran's eyes widened. Because he clearly saw that the middle-aged teacher jumped directly from the guardrail. That's the 17th floor. The person standing in front of Su Ran was none other than his head teacher, Yao Jun. Su Ran's eyes were red, and the slightly bloated figure in front of him seemed so tall and majestic at this moment. Full of sense of security. Su Ran sniffed and glanced at the bulging belly. Old Yao, isn't it time to lose weight? Everyone? You're about to die, and you still have time to care about this? Yao Jun turned around and glared at him. If you have a leaky mouth, don't talk. You have no front teeth and you still can't control your mouth. How about we let them beat you to death? Zhao Guohua's face turned black at this moment. Is this pretending that they don't exist? Yao Jun, this has nothing to do with you. I must kill this guy today. Get out of the way. Yao Jun turned his head. What if I don't let you? Are you planning to kill me too? Zhao Guohua's face was extremely gloomy at this time. He could easily kill a high school student with some effort. But if a Xian-level teacher is killed, then the matter will become very tricky. What good will it do you to protect this kid? If you know your place, get out of the way now. I'll give you 500,000 yuan as a hush money later. With your salary, how long will it take you to earn that much? Lao Yao touched his Mediterranean Sea. Laughed. Why do you think I'm short of money? That little salary isn't even enough for my monthly cigarette bills. He took out a Zhonghua cigarette and lit it for himself. Looking at the confused people, he smiled contemptuously. Teaching is a hobby, understand? Zhao Guohua had obviously lost his patience. I'm asking you one last time, will you let me go? The price can be increased. Just tell me how much you want. Old Zhao stared at Zhao Guohua for a long while, then said, Idiot. The 4 bodyguards' faces changed. You are a teacher at number 7 middle school. How dare you scold the school director like that? Are you crazy? As expected. Zhao Guohua's face looked uglier than if he had eaten shit, but he didn't wait for him to speak. Old Yao brought a Zhonghua cigarette to his lips. The tobacco began to burn and curl in the firelight, and he exhaled a puff of thick smoke. I am also warning you one last time. If you take another step forward, you will bear the consequences. Zhao Guohua laughed out of anger. Not to mention the gap in status between the two. Just talking about strength, you are just a Xian-level spiritualist. Among his 4 bodyguards, which one is not at the Xian level? Can you take on 4 people at once? His patience had worn out, and he waved his hand. Kill them all! I'll give you an extra 500,000. When the 4 bodyguards heard this, they were secretly delighted. Then they surrounded Yao Jun with murderous intent. But just as they took a step forward, a series of crackling sounds rang out. Their clothes were instantly cut into countless holes, and their skin looked as if it had been cut by a sharp blade. The wounds were dense and small, but all over the body. The blood instantly dyed their bodies red, and all 4 of them showed pain on their faces. Although this wound was not fatal, it was extremely painful. Don't even mention them. Even Su Ran behind him was stunned. Even though he was so close, he didn't see how Lao Yao made the move. How on earth is this done? Yao Jun still looked indifferent, and took another puff of his cigarette. Take a step forward. The inexplicable aura on his body was suddenly released. The 4 bodyguards were all ruthless guys with blood on their hands, but they still felt a palpitation at this moment, and involuntarily took several steps back. Who is this person? Is this a Xian-level teacher? That was just a warning. If you don't leave. Yao Jun didn't say anything, but his gaze lingered on the necks of several people for a moment. The cold air spread from the soles of their feet to their whole bodies. The 4 of them subconsciously looked at Zhao Guohua, but the latter's expression became even uglier at this time. because Yao Jun was staring at him intently at this moment. Okay. If you're willing to offend me for this kid, you should have thought about the consequences. I want to see how long you can protect him. Zhao Guohua's face looked frighteningly gloomy. It is impossible to kill Su Ran today. This fat guy's methods are too evil. If he continues like this, he will probably die here. Before leaving, Zhao Guohua glanced at Su Ran with cold eyes. After seeing everyone leave, Yao Jun turned around to check Su Ran's injuries, then frowned tightly. Go to the infirmary to heal your wounds first. As Yao Jun spoke, he picked up Su Ran and ran towards the infirmary at a very fast speed. Slow down. If you bounce a few more times, I'll be dead before you reach the destination. Su Ran grimaced in pain. At the same time, I was extremely confused. Why didn't he go to the hospital or the infirmary when he was so seriously injured? The two of them left. On another building in the distance, two figures gradually stood up straight. One of them put down the binoculars and reported into the headset. Captain, the guy has been rescued. It seems we don't need to take any action. Well, don't expose yourself unless it's absolutely necessary. Our goal is to catch the big fish. The man nodded after hearing this. Zhao Guohua, do you want us to handle this? Committing violence in school is simply too arrogant. We'll deal with it later. Don't intervene for now to avoid alerting the enemy. The school infirmary is on the other side of the playground. And it took Yao Jun only 3 minutes to cover the distance of several thousand meters while holding Su Ran. Su Ran's weight of more than 100 kilograms seemed nothing in his hands. He kicked open the door of the infirmary, and the white-bearded old man inside was visibly startled. He was reading a newspaper when he was so frightened that he jumped up and almost dropped his reading glasses. What are you doing? You're going to pay for the door if it's broken? Seeing that the person coming was Lao Yao, the old man cursed and shouted, but when his eyes fell on Su Ran, his face suddenly darkened. You are so seriously injured, why don't you go to the hospital quickly and bring him to me? Lao Yao put Su Ran on the bed. Stop talking nonsense, I know you have a way to cure him. The old man was furious. You are trying to get my Wu Muxu again. I tell you not to dream on. I will never use that treasure even if I kill you. Baby, don't I need to pad your coffin in the future? Lao Yao cursed directly and rudely. Heal him for me, and I'll give you the thing you asked for last time for free, and I'll also owe you a favor. Real. The old man's expression immediately changed, and his eyes lit up. As if he was afraid that Lao Yao would go back on his word, he immediately turned around and walked into the house, as if to get something. Su Ran was confused by their conversation. But when he heard the 3 words, Wu Muxu, he was directly shocked. This is a body part of a mutated creature. It is rumored that it can heal external injuries instantly, as long as the injury is not fatal. And it won't leave any hidden diseases. Why is it a rumor? Because even if someone offers $1 million to buy it online, there will still be no demand. The old man in the school infirmary actually has this kind of treasure. What's more, he was actually willing to use it to heal himself? Of course, after listening for a long time, Su Ran also understood that this was all because of Lao Yao. I am just one of Lao Yao's students, why is he so nice to me? I am Lao Su's biological child, right? Su Ran suddenly remembered that Lao Yao was still unmarried and naturally had no children. Could it be that he wants to adopt me as his godson? So why not have one yourself? Su Ran suddenly understood. It seems like I have figured out the answer. With tears in his eyes, he looked over with great emotion. Old Yao, I'd better go to the hospital. I heard that Wu Muxu is also very effective for infertility. You can keep it for yourself. Old Yao frowned. What did you say? I know you're embarrassed, but we're all men. There's nothing to be ashamed of. A biological son is more fragrant. Old Yao's face gradually turned ugly. After a while, the old man lifted the door curtain and walked out of the inner room holding a box in his hand. Huh! Why did this kid faint? His injury wasn't that serious just now. Old Yao waved his hand. It's okay, as long as he's not dead. Heal him. 2 hours later. The old man slowly wiped the sweat from his forehead, the milky white fluorescence on his hands gradually dissipated, and his steps were even a little unsteady when he stood up. Oh, my old bones! Such a huge consumption of spiritual energy is still a bit too much for me to handle. If Suran was awake at this moment, he would be shocked. Because after the old man's treatment, Suran, who had originally had a pale face, gradually became rosy. That is to say, the spiritual skill he used just now actually has the effect of restoring the body's chi and blood. You know, healing abilities are very rare, but most healing skills can only restore injuries or mental strength. Even if the wound heals, the blood has already been lost. We can't pump it back in, right? And this old man's spiritual skills can actually restore blood. It is rare in the world. It can be seen that this little old man in the 7th Doctor's clinic must have been an important character in the past. I'll remember the favor I owe you. From now on, you can set any conditions you want as long as they're not too excessive. Old Zhao glanced at the old man. The old man chuckled. The pain in his waist was gone instantly, and he took out his reading glasses and went to the side to read the newspaper. Looking at Suran, who was still sleeping soundly, Lao Yao wanted to wake him up, but suddenly he remembered what the boy had just said. The more I think about it, the angrier I get. Bang! A crisp slap hit Suran's face. Wake up. Has it been cured? Suran opened his eyes in confusion. He rubbed his face and said, Is it not healed yet? Why does my face still hurt a little? When the old man saw Suran looking at him, he quickly pushed his reading glasses. I don't know, don't look at me, it might be a side effect. Oh. Suran felt a burning pain on his face. Then the side effects are quite serious. It seems that the efficacy of Wu Mu Su is not as good as rumored. Looked at the time. 2 hours have passed. It was beginning to get dark outside. Okay, get up and move around. Follow me to the training room. We'll have training later. Old Yao's anger had almost dissipated, and he spoke. Suran was completely dumbfounded. Now? I was just badly injured and nearly lost my life. Will we have to train again later? Is this something a human can do? Seeing Lao Yao's face darken again, Suran was shocked. There was no room for negotiation. 20 minutes later. Number 7 Middle School Training Room. Suran sat on the ground with a helpless look on his face. What exactly do you want to train? If it's fighting, forget it. If it's the basic theory of spiritual power, then forget it. Suran felt a bit overwhelmed when he thought about the textbook that was as thick as the Xinhua dictionary. Stand up! Show me your black flame! Lao Yao kicked Suran and said. Suran reluctantly got up. Right here? I won't be responsible for the compensation if you burn down the training room. The training room was built with special metal materials and was even reinforced with supernatural powers, but even so, in front of the black flame, it was still as fragile as paper. First sequence Group A superpowers. Are you kidding me? Did I ask you to burn the house down? Old Zhao slapped Suran on the forehead, then pointed at the target in the distance and said, Shoot there, retreat to the other side. The training room is about 100 square meters. There is a row of metal targets at both ends, about 20 meters apart. You think you can stump me with just this short distance? Suran excitedly ran to the other side, stopped, aimed at the target, and swung with one hand. A ball of black flame the size of a football shot out. Call! After a burst of burning, the metal target had been melted into a ball of iron slurry. The power of the black flame was truly terrifying. Well, it's okay. Old Zhao nodded. Suran had a smug look on his face. If he didn't have this much accuracy, then what was he doing? It's a target, but what if it was a person? Old Zhao glanced at Suran. Suran was stunned at first, then he understood what Lao Yao was talking about. The target won't move. People move. Moving target, then just predict it. Suran opened his mouth to refute, but his confidence was a little lacking. It's simple to say. People's actions are unpredictable. How do you know what the enemy will do next? As expected. Old Yao sneered after hearing this. Then you better open your eyes and watch. He took out a cigarette from the box, then flicked his fingers and the cigarette flew away. When the cigarette flew about 10 meters away, it began to fall due to gravity, but at this moment a slight gust of wind suddenly appeared in the air. Why was Su Ran able to sense it? Because the strong wind almost brushed past his hair. A strong wind blew, and the airflow directly blew the falling cigarette high up again, spinning it into the sky. Su Ran curled her lips. What's the big deal? The parabola of a falling cigarette is so easy to predict, I can do it too. But he had just finished speaking. The cigarette that was thrown upward and spinning seemed to be attracted by another airflow, and this time it flew back in the opposite direction. The cigarette is still spinning. When it flew above Lao Yao's head, it was still the same airflow, but this time it caused it to fall straight down. Bang! A soft sound. It fell right between Lao Yao's fingers. Lao Yao took out a lighter, lit it, took a puff with great satisfaction, and slowly exhaled the smoke. Su Ran was stunned. From his perspective, the cigarette seemed to be controlled by an invisible hand in midair. Fly out. Decline. Then it flew back and finally landed steadily at the designated location. What kind of incredible spiritual power control is this? Don't underestimate it, it's just a cigarette. It is precisely because of this that in order to control the direction of a cigarette spinning at high speed in the air, one must not only find the precise point of force, but also control the force. Lao Yao's special ability is the 7th sequence XINZ, Sun Feng. It belongs to the elemental power. He knows this. But the key question is, the wind has already been ejected by him, why can it change direction? Can it still be controlled? How the hell is this done? Su Ran's astonishment was clearly visible on his face, and Lao Yao naturally saw it. He smiled and said, Want to learn? I'll teach you. Su Ran was already full of admiration at this point. The previous negativity was swept away. This operation simply refreshed his cognition. After hearing what Lao Yao said, he nodded desperately. If you want to learn, you will be my godfather in the future, and I will be your godson. He understood now. Why were the 4 bodyguards instantly shocked by Lao Yao? This operation alone, coupled with Lao Yao's nearly invisible, Xuanfeng, ability, can completely kill people without them being seen. To put it bluntly, if Lao Yao really wants to kill someone, you won't even know how the person died. This method. It's terrifying just to think about it. Hearing Su Ran's words, Lao Yao's face was obviously stunned for a moment, but he quickly recovered his composure. Get lost! I don't want a son like you, you think I still don't agree? Su Ran chuckled. I can't wait any longer. If you want to learn, listen carefully. Lao Yao pulled over a chair, sat on it, and smoked while saying, Actually, what I just showed you is only the basics. When you reach a higher level, you will know that using mental power to change the trajectory of an attack is a clear sign that distinguishes a rookie from an expert. Especially for elemental abilities, if one can do this, their strength will experience a qualitative leap. Not only the attack trajectory, but also the intensity and accuracy. Late at night. The campus of No. 7 Middle School seems somewhat quiet. In the dark teaching building, only the training room had lights on. Don't be impatient when using mental control. Be sure to maintain the connection, otherwise it will be easy to lose control. In the training room, Su Ran supported her legs with her hands, breathing heavily. Damn it! He had seen Lao Yao do it so easily before, but when he actually started doing it, he found that it was hundreds of times more difficult than he had imagined. This kind of training not only consumes spiritual energy. After 2 hours, he felt as if his brain was about to explode. That feeling is like trying to thread a needle with wool. You can't get it through after trying for a long time, but you have to concentrate. Come again! Old Yao shouted in a deep voice. Su Ran took a deep breath and swung his hand. He shot the black flame towards one of the metal targets again, but at this moment, Lao Yao moved his fingers slightly, and the metal target immediately moved sideways more than 2 meters. This sudden change did not make Su Ran panic. His eyes were fixed on the black flames in the air, not daring to relax even a little. A surprising scene appeared. The black flame that was originally shot out in a straight line actually drew a horizontal line in the air and flew straight towards the moving metal target. Then, it brushed past the metal target and hit the metal wall behind it. Immediately, a trace of melting due to high temperature appeared on the wall. Looking at the entire wall, it was covered with red or charred marks. This was the result of Su Ran's 2 hours of work. It's done! Although he didn't hit the bullseye and even missed the target, Su Ran was still excited. Good! Yao Jun gave a rare compliment. Then his expression straightened up again. But don't be too happy too soon. You have only completed one change of direction. It is still far from being able to control it as if it were your own arm. And your accuracy is not good enough. Oh! Su Ran, who had just been excited, was instantly poured with a bucket of cold water. Little did they know. What Lao Yao said was not very satisfactory. But in fact, I was already shocked. I didn't expect this kid to grasp the key points so quickly. Don't underestimate this simple change of direction, but this first step is the most difficult. That year he started practicing and completed his first change of direction. It took a full half-month. Of course. He definitely wouldn't tell Su Ran this, otherwise, with his personality, wouldn't he be so proud? Let's stop here for today and continue tomorrow, Yao Jun said as he sent Su Ran to the school gate. Just before parting, Su Ran suddenly thought of something and asked, By the way, Lao Yao, do you know Jiuyo Mansion? Why are you asking that? Yao Jun, who was usually calm and composed, suddenly changed his expression. Nothing, just asking casually. Yao Jun's face became extremely solemn. He stared at Su Ran for a long while, and finally said in a deep voice, Don't ask about their affairs, and pray not to run into those people. Oh, Su Ran responded casually. But the little heart has already started pounding. Damn it! I've already encountered it, okay? It seems that this hot potato needs to be dealt with as soon as possible, otherwise it will be really troublesome. It was almost dawn. The quiet street was pitch black, with only the orange street lights casting a small glimpse of light. Okay. Go back early. Yao Jun waved his hand. Well, can you take me back? Su Ran's face turned red, and he asked for escort in a cowardly manner. It's okay. Zhao Guohua's men won't come to trouble you for a while. Just go back without worry. I'm not worried about the Zhao family. Then what are you afraid of? I'm afraid of the dark. Su Ran even started to be shy about her movements. Old Zhao stared at him for a long while, then asked, How old are you? If you don't want to give it to me, then don't give it to me. Why are you mocking me? Su Ran took a deep breath and took a step towards the dark street that seemed to have no end. I'm not afraid of anything. As long as you are brave enough, the female ghost will be on maternity leave. Yao Jun watched Su Ran leave, and waited until he disappeared around the corner. He then said as if talking to himself, Alas, it seems that incident still had a huge impact on him. Well, I thought that brat would never be able to practice again, but I didn't expect that he would give me a surprise. A deep middle-aged voice sounded. A familiar figure gradually emerged from the shadows. If Su Ran looked back at this moment, he would be surprised to find that this was his father. I have to say, his talent is on par with that of an old pervert like you. Looking at Su Hai, who suddenly appeared, Yao Jun was not surprised at all. It seemed like he had been waiting for a long time. Hey, don't you see whose son it is? Only when Su Ran was not present did old Su's eyes show his pride in his son. His talent and aptitude are all okay, but he's just too talkative sometimes. Yao Jun curled his lips and said, I don't know how you taught me. If Shuer were still here. Halfway through the conversation, Yao Jun suddenly realized that he had said something wrong, and looking at Su Hai's expression, he had obviously become much more depressed. Do you think this kid has a chance of defeating that guy's kid in a year? You don't have confidence in the students you taught? Su Hai looked at Yao Jun and said, We'll talk about it later. If we really lose, the worst that can happen is. Let's go! We haven't had a drink for a long time. Let's go! Yao Jun didn't seem to want to continue this topic and interrupted Su Hai. Let's go! Whoever gets drunk first today will be the grandson. Don't! With your drinking habits, I still remember the last time you got drunk and peeped into the women's bathhouse and got me beaten up along with you. We agreed not to mention this again. It's late at night and everyone is asleep. Even Su Ran's footsteps seemed extremely clear. The old buildings on both sides were extremely quiet. Every time Su Ran passed by the deep, dark alley, he couldn't help but quicken his pace. The newspapers on the street were swirling in the night wind, and the dim lights passing by occasionally stretched Su Ran's shadow, making it long and strange. He always felt like someone was following him. But he had read an article online that said one must not look back at such times, otherwise one would bump into a hideous and terrifying ghost face. And about 30 meters behind Su Ran, there was indeed a figure slowly following him. Hidden in the shadows. It's time to get started. A deep male voice came from the headset. After hearing this, the man walked out of the shadows silently. Under the dim light, his unremarkable facial features looked a little ugly. He has triangular eyes, an upturned nose, and a mouth full of yellow teeth when he grins. Old as a flower. And just at the moment the man walked out of the shadows. Not far behind. The two young men in combat uniforms also perked up, quickly grabbed the collar and whispered, "Captain, something's wrong." "But why is there only one person? What strength?" A cold female voice came from the headset. "It is estimated to be Xian level, but the specific level cannot be determined for the time being. Don't act rashly, this is not a big fish." After receiving the order, both of them were stunned. Although there is only one person, he is also a Xian level master. That kid only has the strength of the yellow level. Isn't this a bit too cruel? But the order had been given, and they could only obey. Receive. Late night street. A mantis stalks a cicada? But Su Ran was unaware of this because he was still hesitating whether to turn back. What if there really is a female ghost? If she's pretty, it's fine, but if she's ugly. Even if I want to give her maternity leave, I just can't bring myself to do it. And at this moment, suddenly, the sound of hurried footsteps was heard on the quiet street. The sound came from far away and was clearly directed at Su Ran. His body froze immediately, the coldness slowly surged up from the soles of his feet, and his scalp instantly tightened and numb. No. No way? Su Ran smiled bitterly, and turned his head slowly and mechanically. Under the moonlight, that extremely ugly face came into view. Oh my God! It's a ghost! The man had raised the steel knife halfway, and at this moment, he was completely stunned. As soon as he realized what was happening, he became furious. What the hell? Am I that ugly? At this time, Su Ran was so frightened that he spread his legs and ran as fast as he could. Stop! The killer was so angry that his face turned blue. What's wrong with being ugly? Do you think I'm ugly and want to eat your rice? Is it necessary to run so fast? This shout frightened Su Ran so much that he ran even faster. Although the killer behind him was not good at speed, he had the physical fitness of the Xian level after all, and the distance between them was still getting closer and closer. Su Ran also reacted at this time. Not a ghost. Is it a human? After understanding this, he finally felt a lot more relieved. Bullshit. Who the hell is this? What bad luck has he got into that he was chased twice in one day? The more Su Ran thought about it, the angrier he got. The more he thought about it, the more aggrieved he felt. Then he suddenly stopped and turned around with a cold expression. Why don't you run away? The killer chased after him with a sneer, but was startled when he saw Su Ran's cold eyes. What's that look in this kid's eyes? For a moment, he did not take the initiative to attack, and the two sides were frozen and placed 2 meters apart. Su Ran stared at the killer for a long while. Finally, he gritted his teeth and squeezed out a few words. Dad! Don't kill me! Killer? So you spent all this time thinking about this and now you're just saying this? You scared me. I thought you had some hidden trick up your sleeve. Begging me for mercy, why are you acting so scary? I didn't kill Zhao Wenxiang. Go back and tell Zhao Guohua that he just lost a son. He is my father from now on, and he doesn't have to worry about no one inheriting his estate after his death. Is that okay? Su Ran began to explain. Can this be called cowardice? This is called a real man who can bend and stretch. What are you talking about? The killer frowned, not understanding what was going on. Su Ran was also stunned. Weren't you sent by Zhao Guohua to kill me? Then you're a bit unlucky. Killing people has to be based on first come first served. Please line up and make an appointment first, Su Ran said, turned around and left. The killer was stunned. It seems you are still very popular. Do I need an appointment to kill you? He was so angry that his eyes turned red, and he swung his knife towards Su Ran. Hand it over, or you'll die. Su Ran was prepared, and he quickly dodged to the side almost as soon as the killer raised his hand. What? He was stunned at first, then he immediately understood. It must be related to the alien black demon that day. It seems that this person was sent by the force behind the scenes. Figured this out. Etc. Seeing that the killer was about to swing the knife again, Su Ran quickly raised his hands. What else do you have to say? You just want that bead, right? If I give it to you, will you let me go? Su Ran asked. He had wanted to get rid of this thing for a long time, and now he was eager to get out of this matter as soon as possible. Deeply influenced by quality-oriented education, he understood one truth since he was young. Took someone else's things. It has to be paid back. The killer was stunned. He let it go so easily? He nodded suspiciously. As long as the things are still there, I will let you live. Okay. Then you wait, I'll look for it. Su Ran squatted on the ground and began to rummage in his backpack. As he took out one thing after another, the expression on the killer's face became more interesting. What's in high school students' backpacks nowadays? Brick? That's fine. What the hell is going on with the pink bear hairpin and black stockings? And those, study materials, whose cover alone makes one blush and feel heartbeat fast, are these the things that a high school student should have in his backpack? There's nothing about studying. Seeing the killer's eyes becoming more and more strange, Su Ran suddenly looked embarrassed and hurriedly said, It's not what you think, listen to my explanation. Bricks are used for self-defense. I am a high school student. There is a self-defense item in the bag. That makes sense, right? The hairpins and stockings are both gukirs. Sometimes that girl can't fit everything in herself, so she stuffs everything at him. As for learning materials, I got this from someone in my class. After all, it would be a pity to burn it. The killer had gradually lost his patience. He watched Su Ran search for a long time but still couldn't find what he wanted. All right. Why are you setting up a stall here with me? Hurry up and hand over the stuff, and those magazines too. Su Ran suddenly looked up and smiled like a gentleman. I understand. He searched for a while and finally found the bead at the bottom. Found it, take it! Looking at the hand Su Ran extended to him, the killer was stunned for a moment. Found it? Really give it to me? So simple? At this time. At the street corner not far from the two of them, two yellow birds were also dumbfounded. No, why did this kid hand over the things? We asked you for it, but you would never admit it. The people from the damn crazy corpse gang are here, and you can just give it to them for free. So you're the villain, right? Sunny Shan felt unwell. Old son, what should we do now? Should we report to the captain? The 6-gene beast agent must not be allowed to be obtained by them, otherwise it will cause great chaos to social security. Qian He was also anxious. Why doesn't this guy play by the rules? As a high school student, you don't even understand the importance of this thing. You should be able to tell right from wrong, right? It's obvious that the people from the Crazy Corpse gang are not good people. How could they hand over the things? Don't move yet! Sunny Shan took a deep breath and said, If he really handed it over, it won't be too late for us to take action. It's not appropriate to expose it now. The other sighed. Looking at the hand Su-Ran extended to him, the killer hesitated to move. It's not that he is suspicious. The main reason is that things went too smoothly, to the point of being abnormal. The alien spirit tribe and the crazy corpse gang played against each other, fought countless moves in secret, and made countless meticulous plans. What's the result? Just give it to me as soon as I ask for it? So all their efforts were in vain? Wrong. It's not that simple. The killer's eyes gradually became suspicious and cold. There is nothing of ours in here, right? You have already handed the stuff over to the people in the alien spirit department. Boy, with your little skill, you think you can deceive us? Su-Ran. Brother. What are you imagining? This is what you want. No, can't you just check the things yourself? When we're done, we can go back to our own homes and our own mothers and pretend we've never met before. Isn't that nice? Haha, your acting is pretty good. He gradually revealed a confident sneer. Tell me, is this a remote-controlled bomb or a tracking locator? Do you think I will be fooled? Su-Ran felt numb all over. How come no one believes the truth these days? It's okay. If you're worried, I'll take the things out for you right now. You'll know after you see them clearly. I really didn't intend to lie to you. Don't move! The killer shouted angrily, which frightened Su-Ran so much that he stopped what he was doing. Right at this moment, a command came from his earphone. You can retreat now. Your mission is to attract the attention of the alien spirit department. Don't delay! But the killer couldn't listen at all at this time. He felt fooled. He was a cold-blooded killer, but he was fooled by a high school student. This made him extremely angry. Boy, if you had cooperated obediently, I might have spared your life. The skill of speaking. He suddenly swung the steel knife in his hand towards Su-Ran. But now, you'd better die. Another sneak attack? Su-Ran was so scared that he jumped away. I'm not Master Ma, why do you like to sneak attack me? Can you please show some martial ethics? I really didn't lie to you, please believe me. Su-Ran shouted. You die! The killer was so angry that he lost his mind. He was still shouting coldly in the headset, but he ignored it and slashed again with the knife. Under the moonlight, the steel knife reflected a cold light, and after it was chopped out, it actually swung out a light blue arc-shaped blade light. The killer's supernatural power is actually the same as Jiang Ji's. They are all the second supernatural power of the 9th sequence Rincho, spiritual wave. Are you serious? The arc-shaped blade brushed past Su-Ran, and he broke out in a cold sweat. If this thing gets hit, it will probably be cut into 2 pieces on the spot. Su-Ran was angry. You are crazy, aren't you? You don't even want the things I give you. Don't killers need brains these days? Su-Ran cursed. He waved his hand, and a ball of deep, cold ink-red flame appeared out of thin air and flew straight towards the killer. The killer's pupils shrank sharply. Black flame? This high school student actually awakened the first sequence superpowers? He didn't care about attacking at this moment, and quickly pulled away to dodge, but just as he moved to the side, the black flame actually drew a curved line in the air. Changed direction. Flying towards him again. Mental control? The killer broke out in a cold sweat. Why could a yellow-level high school student have such terrifying strength? Terrified thoughts raced through his brain, and he didn't want to dodge again. The black flames missed. Instead, a big hole was melted in the concrete road, and pungent black smoke was rising. If a fight breaks out, what should we do? Qianhe in the distance became a little anxious. Sunny Shan's face was also tense, but he still said in a deep voice. Without orders, we can't take action. I hope he can escape on his own. The traces of black flame burning showed its terrifying lethality. But the killer laughed when he saw this. So you are a rookie who just got started. You scared me. I thought you could really control it with external speakers. Su-Ran was also a little embarrassed. After all, I've just started learning, so it's good enough if I can change direction successfully. What other bicycle do you want? It seems you have no other options, so just die. Even if it is a first sequence A-level ability, it is not without weaknesses. Black Flame's weakness is that its attack speed is not fast. At least with his Xian level strength, he could easily dodge Su Ran's Huang level Black Flame attack. As soon as the words fell, another blade swung over. Su Ran couldn't stand it anymore. There is no one around at the moment. So what are you waiting for? Erguzi, come out! Just as the blade was approaching, a tall figure in a black cloak suddenly appeared in the middle of the street, standing in front of Su Ran and taking the blow. The sudden appearance of this figure almost scared the killer. His eyes began to look uncertain. The two people in the distance also saw this scene and their eyes widened in shock. What the hell? A humanoid intelligent combat puppet? It's a Xian level 1. Where did this kid get such a heaven-defying treasure? Even our alien spirit department can't get it, so how could a high school student like him get it? Qian He almost shouted out. Although Sun Yishan was also stunned for a moment, he immediately showed an envious look in his eyes. Have you forgotten what his relationship is with young Marshal Zhang? It is not difficult for the Shadow Army to get such a puppet. And he has a space spiritual tool on him. This kid has so many treasures on him. It's different when you have a big boss backing you up. It makes me jealous. The battle continued in the distance. As soon as the combat puppet appeared, it immediately followed instructions and fought with the killer. Xian level puppet? The two sides were fighting fiercely, with the blows going back and forth. But the killer became more and more frightened as the battle went on. Isn't this puppet too powerful? He is at the 6th level of the Xian rank. And this Xian level puppet does not belong to him at all, and even has a tendency to gain the upper hand. Who is this guy? The order to retreat came from the headset, almost like a roar. But now the killer's face looked bitter. He was now stuck in a stalemate, and it would be impossible to extricate himself for a while. But he was not too panicked. No matter how powerful a puppet is, it is just a puppet. What supports it in fighting is the spiritual power storage device in its body. Once the spiritual power inside is exhausted, it needs to absorb the spiritual power of the surrounding heaven and earth again to recharge. The stronger the puppet, the greater the consumption. To put it bluntly, even though he is at a disadvantage now, he can still win as long as he can delay enough. When the puppet's spiritual power is exhausted, the situation will be completely reversed. He became more and more confident as the fight went on, and a sneer even appeared on his face again. You'd better run away now, otherwise by the time I free my hands you'll be dead. But at this moment, a sneering voice suddenly sounded behind him. So you still remember that I'm here too? I thought you forgot about me. The killer's smile froze. Feeling the scorching heat slowly approaching from behind, he froze in place instantly. But before he could turn around, a fist-sized black flame instantly pierced through his body. He looked at his chest with some difficulty. There was a big hole melted through there and a burning smell was spreading everywhere. Not a drop of blood was shed. Plop! The killer's body fell heavily to the ground, with a look of regret on his face before he died. How could he forget to be on guard against the other one? Such a scene. The two people in the distance kept shaking their heads. This guy is unlucky to run into this difficult guy. Let alone him, even if one of us is caught off guard, I'm afraid we will fall into his trap. It was a good move for the mantis to stalk the cicada, but in the end the mantis was killed instead. Who would have thought? This is a fucking diamond cicada. The two of them were talking, but their eyes never left Su Ran. Su Ran took back the Xian level puppet, and just when both of them thought he was going to leave, they saw a scene that made their eyes widen. But Su Ran didn't leave. Instead, he fumbled around in the man's body, pulled out his wallet, and put it in his pocket. He picked up his steel knife and held it in his own hand. Then he waved his hand. The raging black flames instantly burned the corpse into ashes. The night wind blows. Ashes were scattered everywhere, and there was no trace of the body except for a charred pool on the ground. Kill and plunder. Burn the body and scatter the ashes. One set of operations goes smoothly. Looks extremely skilled. I have a lot of experience. Both of them looked so pale. Why don't you file a case against this guy? I suspect he has a criminal record. Qian-He fell silent after hearing this. Yes, I agree. After doing all this, Su-Ran should leave, right? But he didn't. He walked to the side, put his things into his school bag one by one, and then dialed the contact number left by Feng Qingxue. Feng Qingxue left her phone number. But how could such a cold and beautiful girl give out her contact information to others casually? So, a street late at night, a dark alley in the distance. Then a cheerful bell rang. You sing the sunrise, Kianga sings the sunset, and Harry Potter rides a pig. What the hell? What is this guy doing calling at this time? The ringing sounded extremely clear in the quiet and secluded alley. How to say it? A bit brainwashing. Sunny Shan hurriedly pressed the mute button, which immediately attracted Qian-He's deep complaint. Old son, your ringtone is something. Haha, my daughter set it up. It's pretty naughty. Sunny Shan responded a little awkwardly. Qian-He's face turned green. Damn, is this a question of being naughty or not? Big brother. Going on a mission? Can't you set it to vibrate? How could such a low-level mistake be made? That's better. All exposed. As long as that guy is not deaf, he must have heard it. Su-Ran did hear it. Although they were more than 50 meters apart, it was late at night and it was quiet, so he understood everything the moment the bell rang. Damn it! Are you using me as bait? You are from the Alien Spirit Department, right? Su-Ran didn't walk over directly, but asked on the phone. Sunny Shan responded in a haughty tone. All right. I'm going to confess. I won't pretend anymore. I was the one who killed the alien Black Ba, and you all saw my Xian-level puppet. I'm handing the things over to you now, and this matter has nothing to do with me from now on. Su-Ran deliberately raised the volume so that the whole block could hear it clearly. God knows if the people from that gang are still around. He did this to distance himself from the matter. Every wrong has its perpetrator, don't come looking for him. No! You can't give it to us now. Even if you give it to us, it will be useless. Sunny Shan explained in a deep voice. Su-Ran got angry. What? You can't get rid of this hot potato, right? I don't care. I put the things here for you. If you don't want them, it's none of my business if someone else picks them up. As he spoke, he actually took out the safe from the beads and placed it on the deserted street. After saying that, he hung up the phone. Sunny Shan and the other man stared in amazement. What the hell is this operation? In desperation. After Su-Ran walked away, the two had to step forward and pick up the safe. Joke. If this thing was really taken away by a passerby, it would be a big trouble. The two immediately contacted Feng Qingxue. Feng Qingxue was silent for a moment after hearing this, her voice still cold and clear. Take the things back, continue the plan, and check if there are any members of the Crazy Corpse gang around. Now that he has been involved, it will not be easy for him to get out now. Yes. Su-Ran returned home. Lao Su hasn't come back yet. I don't know where he went. After returning to the room, he lay down on his bed feeling a little tired. Today had been full of twists and turns. It's just trouble. This is what is giving him the most headache now. If the Alien Spirits Department knew that he had a Xian-level puppet, would they come to investigate and question him? Alas, I can only think of a way to muddle through when the time comes. What Su-Ran didn't know was, everything he showed today had already been rationalized by the two men, so there was actually no need to worry. Took out the killer's wallet. There was nothing in it that could prove his identity, only a few dozen red bills. Su-Ran hid the wallet. Naturally, he accepted these thousands of dollars with a smile. As for the steel knife used by the killer, although it was a standard one, it was well made and extremely sharp. It's a good knife. The market price of this kind of knife is probably tens of thousands. It's not cheap. Although the things have been handed over. But Su-Ran kept the bead. Where is the space spiritual weapon? Of course I have to keep this kind of good stuff for myself. So all in all, Suran didn't get nothing. Only. Shit! I forgot to give out this token. Suran slapped his thigh. Never mind. It doesn't look like an important thing, we'll talk about it later. After figuring this out, his mood gradually improved. In fact, the biggest gain from Lao Yao's guidance today was not the control skills of Black Flame, but the growth of mental strength. That's right. Lao Yao's method of instruction requires the control of mental power to a meticulous level, so this actually helps to improve mental power. In addition, he practiced all night yesterday, so Suran discovered it in the morning. Practice for a long time. That is to say, moderate load training. That kind of mental fatigue is also due to the exercise of mental strength. Then the method of increasing mental strength is very clear. Pay attention to details and skills. It also needs to be long-lasting. Suran practiced for 2 nights, and coupled with the excessive consumption of mental energy before, Suran finally couldn't stand the tiredness. He fell asleep without even taking off his clothes. The next morning, he was still awakened by Lao Su knocking on the door. It's already 9 o'clock. How long do you plan to sleep? Su Hai's shout rang out outside the door. Suran woke up suddenly and jumped up from the bed. It's 9 o'clock? It's over. I'm going to be late. This is terrible. Old Yao will definitely scold me again. Suran grabbed his backpack and rushed directly to the living room. Then he paused. Huh! That's not right. Aren't we all on holiday? He looked at Su Hai on the sofa with resentment on his face. The old man's face was stern. What's wrong? Don't you have to get up during the holidays? Why don't you sleep until the afternoon? The momentum that Suran had just built up instantly weakened. Did you go out drinking last night? Even from a long distance away, you can smell the alcohol. Yeah. Su Hai responded without turning his head. Drink less alcohol, it's bad for your health. Have to. After saying a few words, 2 hm's popped out. Suran went out anyway. Although there is no class today, I have an appointment to meet with Han Wenshuan and others. After all, the graduation exam is only a week away. To put it bluntly, it's the college entrance examination. During the remaining period of time, their newly formed team must take the time to get used to each other. Arrived at school. Because there was still half an hour before the agreed time of 10 o'clock, Suran was the only one there. The playground was empty. But the tire marks left on the lawn are still clearly visible. Zhao Guohuo will definitely not let it go like this. He has to be careful next time. In a trance. Suddenly, a group of young men holding sticks came over from a distance. The one leading them was burly and strong, and he was obviously the leader. A group of people came straight towards Suran with ferocious looks on their faces. Your name is Suran! There is an azure dragon on the left, and a white tiger on the right, and there is also a pleasant goat on the chest. At first glance, he is a tough guy in the underworld. Suran nodded. I am. What do you want to talk to me about? The skinny little brother next to the pleasant goat, sizing up Suran and asked. Do you know who we are? Suran smiled and stretched out his hand to the burly man. I don't know. What's your name, big brother? Who should I call big brother? The skinny monkey glared at him in dissatisfaction. Suran glanced to the side and saw a skinny young man who was about 1.6 meters tall. Sunken cheeks, thin arms and legs. He looked clearly malnourished. Suran looked at the burly man and said, Brother, I have to criticize you. You should also control the quality when you recruit younger brothers. It's embarrassing for you to pull out such bean sprouts, right? Besides, the boss is talking. How can the younger brother interrupt? The strong man was stunned after hearing this. The skinny young man's face turned green at this time. Who are you calling big brother? I'm the boss. Suran was completely stunned. Are you the eldest brother? Aren't you brought here just to make up the numbers? He reacted quickly and smiled awkwardly. Hey brother, look at my eyes. I can see that you are a reasonable person who likes to win people over with virtue, right? What do you want from me? God, you win people over with virtue. Why can't I convince others with force? Stop talking nonsense to me. The young man pointed the stick at Suran. You were the one who shot my sister, right? Suran. No. I haven't done anything. How can someone with such good words and white teeth slander someone's innocence out of thin air? No, what does your sister look like? Suran was anxious. The young man hesitated for a moment. This morning I wore a light yellow dress, fluffy hair, and a height. The words haven't finished yet. Several younger brothers nearby started clapping their heads to the rhythm. Suran was also confused. There's something. Brother, your rap sounds a bit like a big bowl of wide noodles. Why are you guys shaking? The young man looked around and was too lazy to describe it. Stop pretending! Han Wenxuan is my sister, and I am Han Wuqiang. Han Wenxiang said angrily. Suran was even more confused. Putting aside the issue of whether he shot or not, the key question is, what is your name, Han Wuqiang? How does your appearance have anything to do with the word Wuchang? Suran even wondered if his bamboo-like arms would break after swinging the stick twice. So you and the Han family like to do this kind of cross-dressing when naming? The looks from the guys around me were a little weird too. They took a sneak peek at Suran and couldn't help but admire her inwardly. Bro, you are awesome. He can even take down that tigress, so awesome. Suran. I am not. I don't know anything. Han Wuqiang also realized that there was something wrong with his words at this time, and immediately blushed and said angrily. I said to use an arrow. My sister said she was shot by an arrow. Did you do it? During breakfast, Han Wuqiang discovered that his elder sister, who had always been proud and calm, seemed to have a problem with her brain. His face turned red in a moment. Then he was so angry that he gritted his teeth and grabbed the pillow and started hitting it. Good job. A hole was hammered into the sofa. Han Wuqiang had never seen his elder sister like this before. He thought she had been bullied outside, so he quickly stepped forward to ask what happened. Han Wenxuan looked at the cupid pillow in his hand and said something perfunctorily with a red face. I was hit by an arrow. When Han Wuqiang heard this, he was shocked. So this happened. I don't care who you are. If you dare to bully my sister, I will break one of your legs today and make you apologize to my sister. Han Wuqiang shouted angrily. Brother, which leg? Pleasant Goat asked while scratching his crew cut. Why the hell are you talking so much nonsense? It doesn't matter left or right. Hurry up! Han Wuqiang jumped up and hit the strong man on the head. The people around him didn't dare to ask any more questions and immediately rushed towards Suran waving sticks. Coming with great force. The sound is terrifying. Especially the sturdy man in the lead, his muscles bulged high, and the extra-large round-headed stick in his hand was extremely scary. Look at that vicious little look again. 3 parts of murderous intent, 6 parts of anger, and 1 part of arrogance that makes me feel like who else can do it? Should I say it or not? If a person of this stature were to sit there, even the crows would think twice before overturning the table. However, puff! The flames rose. Suran leaned against the gold frame of the stadium with one hand in his pocket, and on the palm of his other hand, an inky black flame was dancing like an elf. Then, Pleasant Goat knelt down. It's not that he wanted to kneel, but he couldn't stop in time, and the person behind him had bumped into him. Not only did he kneel down, he also slid forward for a distance, and finally slid in front of Suran. Suran lowered his head. The strong man looked up. The two looked at each other. The scene was a little awkward. Suran. What does this mean? Did the ball go in? With this set of skills, it might be a bit difficult to join the national football team. It's useless. Pleasant Goat and the group of people behind him broke out in cold sweats. They stared blankly at the flames still flickering in Suran's hands. Is this Black Flame? First Sequence Group A talent? What were you doing just now? Were you going to hit me? Suran leaned forward with a confused look on his face. A group of people were shaking their heads like rattles. Brother Ran! We were wrong! I just wanted to show you my newly trained muscles. Pleasant Goat forced out an awkward smile and raised his arms. Look at my biceps, aren't they nice? Oh, I see. Suran suddenly realized something. I thought you were in the same group as that guy and wanted to beat me up. You scared me. Everyone looked at the black flame jumping in Suran's hand with sad faces. Big brother. Who is scaring whom? Can you please stop using your magical powers? I'm afraid a spark might fall from my body by accident, and I won't be able to handle it. Ran, don't worry. From now on, you will be our big brother. We will draw a clear line with Han Wuqiang and will never have any contact with him again. Pleasant Goat and a group of people made a solemn promise. They are really scared. If they had known he was such a big shot, they would never have dared to provoke him even if they were beaten to death. Han Wuqiang behind was stunned. What is going on? How could the school kid I brought with me just give in so quickly? What happened to Black Flame? Yang Bing! Get back here! Now! Han Wuqiang shouted angrily. Suran looked at Pleasant Goat in front of him with a smile. The sturdy man shuddered. Turning back, he said sternly, I have already given up the dark and joined the light. Don't contact me again. I'm afraid that Brother Ran will misunderstand. Han Wuqiang? Who the hell is playing Yi Jian Mei? He was so angry that his lungs exploded, and he glared and roared. You useless wimps, do you still want to join my dad's Nanching Club? Get out of here right now! When they heard the three words, Nanchengui, the group of people immediately ran back. Any road in the South City. There is no idiot who doesn't know these three words. I'll settle the score with you later. Han Wuqiang angrily scolded the dejected people, then stared at Suran and said, Boy, no matter how powerful your superpower is, it depends on who uses it. I want to see today if you can break my defense. The younger brother behind him changed his expression after hearing this. Brother Chang! Which trick are you going to use? No, Brother Chang, there's no need to use that trick. Han Wuqiang didn't answer, but smiled crookedly. His eyes were full of coldness and contempt. Suran was stunned watching from a distance. What's going on with this second-year hot-blooded feeling? Also, which trick is it? You guys just say it. Suran felt a little frightened. He was afraid that Han Wuqiang would make a phone call and then send 100,000 soldiers to kill him. Who can withstand this? Han Wuqiang didn't take out his phone. But he took a step forward, and then his body suddenly swelled up, and the clothes on his body burst immediately and turned into countless pieces. The fifth sequence, Wu Si, Beast Transformation. Suran's expression froze. Then Han Wuqiang's body began to change. Fine scales appeared on his skin and a hard shell appeared, reflecting a metallic luster in the sunlight. Suran took a step back, his eyes filled with doubt. This? Ninja Turtles? Master Rashi? Suran was a little confused for a moment. Brother, what species is this? It's wearing a turtle shell, why can't I recognize it? The others were stunned at first. Then he couldn't help but burst out laughing. It's no wonder they couldn't hold it in. The main reason was that Suran's description was too vivid. Han Wuqiang gave people the feeling that a thin bamboo pole was inserted into a turtle shell. The case size is plus size. You're talking bullshit. Han Wuqiang's eyes turned red with anger. I am a bishi. A divine beast. You are a turtle bastard, and your whole family is a turtle bastard. While talking, a layer of faint dark yellow phosphorescence instantly covered his shell. At this moment, Han Wuqiang was like a solid shield. Suran's eyes lit up. This kind of beast transformation is rare, and for a moment he felt a little itchy. Okay. Then let me see how hard your shell is. Immediately following, he took a deep breath, gathered strength in his right arm, and then punched out. Suran is extremely fast. After a punch was thrown, there was a sound of gas explosion. Bang! A clanging sound was heard. Suran felt a punch hit an armored vehicle. Han Wuqiang just staggered a few steps, but he was shocked and his palm was painful. Both of them showed shock on their faces at the same time. Han Wuqiang found it a little unbelievable that even his sister couldn't do anything to him when he defended with all his strength. But Su Ran's punch actually made his blood surge slightly. Su Ran was also surprised. What a strong defense! A real tortoise shell. You better be careful next time. I don't know if I can melt through your spiritual shield. Be prepared. Su Ran's face became serious. He wanted to test how strong this man's defense was. I also want to see the extent of the damage that the black flame alone can do. Call! The black flame instantly covered the fist. The seemingly cold flame was actually emitting a scorching heat, and the surrounding air began to distort. Han Wuqiang's face changed. When facing it at close range, he felt the horror of the black flame firsthand. But the harsh words had already been spoken, so he could only grit his teeth and keep silent. Here it comes! Su Ran shouted in a deep voice and took a bow step forward. A punch smashed out. Stop! A delicate shout suddenly sounded in the distance. Hearing this voice, Su Ran wanted to stop, but the force had already been exerted, so he could only try his best to change direction. At this time, Han Wuqiang was so frightened that his face turned pale and his eyes closed involuntarily. Boom! Su Ran's punch almost brushed Han Wuqiang's side. Han Wuqiang slowly opened his eyes, but then he froze. There was complete silence all around. All the younger brothers, including Pleasant Goat, opened their mouths so wide that it seemed as if an egg could fit in them. Su Ran's punch missed. However, the fist wind that was thrown diagonally downward left a long black groove on the green grass, which was caused by the high temperature carried by the black flame. Han Wuqiang was stunned because he saw that a hole had been melted through the spiritual power shield on the right side of his body, and it was now slowly healing. Missed. But just a slight touch was enough to melt his strongest defense. Is this the A-Team's ability, Black Flame? What if that punch just now had hit? Han Wuqiang swallowed with some difficulty. I dare not think about it anymore. Just when Han Wuqiang had just come out of the semi-beast state, a strong wind suddenly blew. A long and powerful white leg directly pulled his thin body away, and Han Wenxuan's cold shout was also heard. Did you take the wrong medicine, or is there water in your brain? Even if Su Ran doesn't use the Black Flame, his level 10 spiritual power alone is enough to kill you. Do you dare to come and cause trouble for him? It seems like he is scolding, but his words reveal his protection. Su Ran waved his hand and smiled when he saw this. It's okay, your brother just came to get to know me, and he was sparring with me just now. Han Wuqiang just got up at this time. When he saw it was his sister, he was so scared that he lost his temper. Especially when he heard that Su Ran was at the 10th level of the yellow rank, he was even more stunned. I heard that you were bullied, and I want to help you get back at your level. Su Ran also looked at Han Wenxuan at this time. He still doesn't understand what's going on. When did I bully you? Han Wenxuan was stunned at first, but then he reacted. 2 blushes quickly dyed her pretty face, and she gritted her teeth and said angrily, I was just joking, can't you ask clearly first? Also, do I, Han Wenxuan, need others to help me find a place? Han Wenxuan's chest heaved up and down in anger and shame. Su Ran took a sneak peek and couldn't help but be shocked. So fierce. He was probably the only one present who was brave enough. As for Pleasant Goat and his gang of younger brothers, they kept their heads down and remained silent ever since Han Wenxuan showed up, not daring to even make a sound. Joke. Han Wuqiang was angry and at most he scolded them a few words. But if they made that master unhappy, they shuddered at the mere thought of it. After a few words, the misunderstanding was cleared up. Although Su Ran didn't understand what the misunderstanding was, Han Wuqiang was forcibly dragged over to apologize to Su Ran and bowed sincerely. It's okay. We don't know each other without fighting. Su Ran rarely bears grudges. After Han Wenxiang led his men away, Han Wenxuan said angrily, My twin brother is just like this. You must not bother with him. Etc. Twin? He looked at Han Wenxuan, then at Han Wuqiang, who was walking away. Are these two from the same mother? He also goes to number 2 middle school. Su Ran asked curiously. Yes, but he is not in the same class as me. Don't be fooled by his bad behavior, but he is also at the 6th level of the yellow rank like me, and his beast transformation is also very rare, belonging to a very rare species. It can be seen that Han Wenxuan is still quite satisfied with his disappointing younger brother. Su Ran nodded and said nothing more. Both the brother and sister are beasts. Actually, this has something to do with the genes from parents. Speaking of this, Su Ran thought about his own black flame, which seemed not to be inherited from Su Hai. Lao Su isn't even an elementalist. Could it be my mother? Su Ran shook his head. He didn't remember anything when his mother passed away, and he hadn't heard old Su mention it in all these years. Sorry, I'm late. In a trance. Suddenly, a familiar figure came running over breathlessly from a distance. It was Jiangji who was late. I'm so sorry, I had to help my mom with the stall this morning, so I came a little late. Jiangji was sweating profusely, and it was obvious that he had rushed all the way here. It's okay. We just got here not long ago. Su Ran smiled and waved his hand, then like a magic trick he took out a finely crafted steel knife. You've come just in time. Try this knife and see if it's handy. Space spiritual weapon? Han Wenxuan and Jiangji were both shocked. This is a rare treasure. But soon their attention was attracted by the steel knife, especially Jiangji, who kept looking back and forth with envy on his face. Nice knife. Just like it, it's yours. Su Ran pressed the knife into his hand. Jiangji was still immersed in the workmanship of this fine knife, when he suddenly froze. Give it to me? Han Wenxuan also remembered it. Yes. Jiangji doesn't have his own weapon yet. I didn't expect Su Ran still remembered it. Sorry, I forgot about this. Han Wenxuan was a little embarrassed. With her rough personality, it was common for her to forget things. Jiangji was stunned. It looked like this knife was not cheap. Su Ran was actually willing to give it to him? He was a reserved and dull person by nature, and for a moment he couldn't help but have tears in his eyes. He still wanted to refuse. But Su Ran forcefully stuffed it back into his mouth. Okay, now that everyone is here, let's start the run-in training. Time is running out, we have to hurry. Han Wenxuan waved his fist. All right. We didn't have enough fun yesterday, let's do it again today. Jiangji also uttered a heavy The three of them worked together until the afternoon. After separation, Su Ran went to Lao Yao again to receive control training. By the time he was ready to go back, it was already late at night. However, as soon as he went out, a thin figure jumped out of the darkness. Damn! Su Ran was startled. Only in the dim light could I see clearly that it was Han Wuqiang who had appeared during the day. What do you want to do? How? You got taught a lesson during the day and want to get back at me at night? Brother Ran. Please accept me as your little brother. Han Wuqiang knelt down without saying a word. Su Ran was confused. What is this operation? Brother Ran. I've watched the video online, you are absolutely my idol. And your Tai Chi, can you teach me? What the hell is that hand-waving move called? I'm convinced. You'll be my big brother from now on. Han Wuqiang has been waiting here for a long time, waiting for Su Ran to come out. In terms of personality, it cannot be said that he and Han Wenxuan are exactly the same, but they are completely identical. That is, whoever has the bigger fist is the boss. Just beat them into submission. Han Wuqiang, the troublemaker from number 2 middle school, has now been completely defeated. Su Ran also laughed after hearing this. I was originally thinking about how to trick this guy into coming here, but I didn't expect that he would come to me on his own. Okay. I'll follow your brother Ran from now on. Su Ran smiled proudly. How about it, do you think I, your brother Ran, can perform Tai Chi handsomely? Handsome. Han Wuqiang nodded repeatedly, then hesitated for a moment and said, Brother Ran, I have something to say, but I don't know if I should say it. You say. Su Ran was in a good mood. You should get your teeth fixed someday. Mainly because I think the 2 missing front teeth will affect your temperament. Su Ran's face darkened and he turned and left. Brother Ran, where are you going? Han Wuqiang hurried to follow. Get lost. Don't follow me. I'm going to get my teeth fixed. But it's dark now, and the dental office has already closed. After a few days, Su Ran still goes to school every day. In the morning, I worked with Han Wenxuan and Jiang Ji to get the team up. Even Han Wuqiang sometimes brought people over to join in the fun. But this time he brought not his younger brother, but his 2 teammates. The 2 sides also had a friendly exchange. The main situation is, the 2 sides fought back and forth, and then Su Ran saw that Han Wuqiang's shell was too hard, so he directly took out the black flame. And then, there was no more. However, the cooperation between the 2 teams has obviously improved, and they even formulated some combat plans and made some suggestions to each other. In the afternoon, I followed Lao Yao to train in black flame control. The training progressed slowly, at least that's what Su Ran thought. But it is not without results. Now, when he releases the black flame, he can easily perform a single transformation, and the accuracy has also been greatly improved. The probability of not missing the target, well, it's at least 30%. At the same time, Su Ran's mental strength was also further trained, and he could clearly feel his mental strength growing. Although not much. But it can be seen that this method is effective. However, Su Ran was not in a hurry to enter the tower again. He was determined to at least surprise Lao Li next time he went in. The last thing is also the most important one. That is, Su Ran finally got his tooth fixed. He gave the mirror a standard 8-teeth smile and finally nodded with satisfaction. Now her temperament is finally back. That night, after a whole day of training, Su Ran returned home a little tired. But as soon as the door opened, he was stunned. Is this my home? Only Su Ran and Lao Su live in this house. Although it is not messy on weekdays, it is definitely not clean. But now, the floor was swept clean and all items were neatly put away. It looked absolutely brand new. You're back? While Su Ran was still in a daze, a clear and gentle voice rang out. Ker? Why are you here? The person who walked out of the bathroom was Gu Kier. Her petite body was covered with a slightly loose white round-neck sweater, and her ear-length hair was tied into a small ponytail. She had an apron tied around her waist and a towel in her hands. Uncle Su was cooking in the kitchen, and I happened to have nothing to do, so I just helped clean up. Su Ran was still a little confused. At this time, Su Hai also came out of the kitchen with a bowl of noodles in his hand. Go wash your hands and eat when you come back. Ker will stay here tonight. Girl, stop working so hard. Taste the noodles and see if they suit your taste. If not, I'll make them again for you. The second half of the sentence was directed to Gu Kier. To be honest, as his biological son, Lao Su had never spoken to him in such a gentle and patient tone. They are completely different people. No need. I've already troubled Uncle Su. The noodles you cook must be super delicious. Gu Kier smiled politely and generously. Old Su's face suddenly lit up with joy, completely different from his usual sullen expression. The little girl is still sweet-talking. What's going on? While Su Hai turned around and went into the kitchen again, Su Ran asked in a low voice. Gu Kier's eyes were filled with smiles. Uncle Su picked me up and told my parents about it, because tomorrow. The words haven't finished yet. Su Hai came out again, stared at Su Ran and scolded. What are you doing standing there? Don't you know how to come and help? You have no sense at all. Su Ran. This was not the attitude you used when you spoke to Ker just now. Shrug. He had no choice but to go into the kitchen to help. At the dinner table, Su Ran stared at the 3 steaming bowls of noodles on the table and couldn't help but wonder. Doesn't Lao Su dislike eating noodles? What's going on here? Ah, Uncle Su, I can't eat so much. Gukur blushed as she looked at the big bowl of fragrant fried egg noodles in front of her. It's okay. I can feed the dog with the leftovers. Su Hai responded with a smile and then glanced at Su Ran. Su Ran. What's the meaning? Dad. Why are there 2 fried eggs in Kur's bowl? Where's mine? Did you forget to put them in? Su Ran protested. This is too much discrimination. Well, maybe I forgot. Su Hai didn't pay much attention to it. Then I want fried eggs too. Bang! The chopsticks were slammed on the table, and Su Hai shouted, Eat it or not! Su Ran shrank his neck in fear and dared not speak again. This meal. He ate so poorly that he dared not even breathe. In the end, Kur secretly put the fried egg in her bowl into Su Ran's bowl, stuck out her tongue at him, and smiled sweetly. After dinner, Su Hai gave a few instructions and said he had to go out for something and would be back later. Let them go to bed early. But now the problem arises. Where does Kur sleep? That is, there are only 2 rooms. Lao Su usually decided not to let anyone enter his room, which meant tonight he and Gu Kur can only sleep in their own bedroom? Don't worry, Kur. My bed is very big and soft. There's no problem for 2 people to sleep on it. Su Ran rubbed his hands embarrassedly. Gu Kur was stunned at first, then her pretty face turned red. Bah! You wish. I'll sleep in your room and you can sleep on the sofa in the living room. After a while, Su Ran stood in front of her bedroom door, looking at the closed door and fell into deep thought. That's not right. How is this different from what we agreed? Can you at least let me in to get the bed and quilt? Do you have to be so heartless? Then, the door opened as expected. Su Ran's face lit up with joy and he immediately squeezed in. Just as he was racking his brains to think of an excuse to stay, his face suddenly changed. At this time, Gu Kur was humming a tune while looking around his room, and finally her eyes fell on the pile of magazines on the chair. What is this? I remember you don't usually read books. You can't look at that. Su Ran took 2 steps forward, but Gu Kir would not let him succeed, and they collided and fell to the ground. The chair was knocked over. Magazines were scattered all over the floor. The pages of the book were wide open, filled with indescribable scenes. Gu Kur was pressed under someone, and before she could even cry out in pain, she caught a glimpse of the various mosaic images on the magazine out of the corner of her eye. Her fair and delicate face turned red in an instant, and even her round earlobes turned bright red. Just this one glance. She couldn't bear to watch it anymore. He quickly covered his eyes in shame and shouted, Put it away quickly, it's so embarrassing. Su Ran felt numb all over. No, I can explain this. This is not mine. Get up and explain. The blush had spread to Gu Kir's neck. Su Ran only then realized that he was still lying on top of her, especially that he seemed to be holding something in his hand, so he squeezed it. Amazing elasticity! The tingling sensation spread throughout her body. Gu Kir couldn't help but moan softly, then she blushed and gritted her teeth and asked, What are you doing? Su Ran finally realized what was happening and felt extremely embarrassed. He immediately got up from the ground. He quickly picked up the magazines on the floor and stuffed them into the drawer. Take the quilt and get out quickly. Gu Kur sat back on the bed, her 2 white and round little feet swinging helplessly, her skin still flushed, and she was unwilling to turn her face around. Su Ran was dejected. It's over, my reputation is ruined. If I had known this earlier, I should have burned these broken things. Just as he took out the quilt from the cupboard and was about to walk out of the bedroom, a sound as thin as a mosquito's buzz suddenly came from behind him. Do you boys all watch these? When do you usually start watching them? Su Ran turned around. Gu Kur looked shy and curious, with her legs nervously entangled together. This topic is rather embarrassing. However, Su Ran still shamelessly scratched his head and said, It depends on the person. For example, I usually like to watch it in the dead of night. Gu Kir? Suran reacted instantly and wanted to slap himself twice. What a sin! What am I talking about?